They'll call it a blip later on in history when we find out how this all turned out. Or we won't, and the story of our lives will veer into a new direction. That'll also feel settled and done once it's over. Is that comforting? It's still tumultuous as hell and difficult to live through. And the people whose lives are getting ground down in the gears of progress and change. And can't you just go with it? Everyone else is. Well, if they're not there in the future to tell their side, it'll be like they never happened. Who's looking out for the vulnerable? It's not no one, but they're not getting the glory. It's hard to be the one in the meeting that goes, wait, are we sure this is a good idea? And that person can be being an obstructionist at times.
I don't truck with all this bollocks. Keep your head down, do what they say, foment revolution on your own time. At least that's what I always say.
But some things are just so clearly not a good idea. And you could have had one, but you didn't vote for her. A modern day bard for these modern day times. The worst timeline, the dumbest timeline, the one where Jeff loses an arm. Are these things as out of our hands as they feel? Maybe it would be worse if we could consciously control them. Think of the pressure. Every decision, no matter how seemingly inconsequential, well, they all could be the wrong one. And the safest thing would be to stay home under the blankets, interacting with no one, but that's a choice as well. And pretty clearly, not a great one. What is clear? The manicure of choice for most metrosexuals? Looking nice is also a choice, but taking care of yourself is something you should be doing regardless of your orientation. Unless you're a child, you can't wait around for somebody to do it for you, because they will, and you might not like what happens. But by then, it'll be too late. You've got a bowl cut and a smartwatch that reports all of your movements to a classroom of hackers in Estonia. What are they doing with that information? Oh, now you care. What do you have to hide? And why are you spending so much time at Dave & Buster's? And can you get me a chili dog? Just feed it to me through whatever charging port you have on your phone. USB-C, Thunderbolt, it's all delicious. And stick a few napkins up in there if you could. We're all gonna need them for the mess we're making. And stop falling for people who say they have all the answers. The answer is profit, and they're not planning on sharing anytime soon. You know it's true. Find an experiment to be into every day. This should keep interest levels up and ratings. You can run one on yourself. I'm running one on you right now. How are you feeling? You taste metal? It's okay if you do. Rock out, rock in. Add whatever preposition makes sense in your situation. Prepositions are hard. In fact, they're an experiment someone else is running on foreign language learners. So keep on saying on accident. It's part of the data. What's to be done with the results? That's what journals are for. Is your personal journal respected and feared? I respect it. Only you know if I should be fearful. Probably, if I know you, which I don't.
Recently, I've been really nervous that I'm going to sleep through my alarms. I haven't done it in 30 years, but today might be the day.
Don't worry, I'm not gonna ask, do you ever really know another person? I think it's pretty clear it's the wrong question. You don't have to know someone to annoy them. And that's what we've been put here on this earth to do. How many people in your vicinity are on their phones right now? Go roll your eyes at them. There, now you're both annoyed, and the dance continues. We don't dance like we used to, that's for sure. People used to have moves and want to show them off in public. I blame rock and roll, as is common in your culture. Oh, by the way, you can stop rocking out or rocking up. Whatever direction you've chosen, that part of the experiment is over. How are you feeling now? Is there a faint throbbing in your spleen? Good, good. Some experiments you can't know they're happening until after. That's to ensure maximum dramatic irony. You can't pawn your watch to buy hair combs if you know your partner's cutting your hair to buy you a watch fob. That's why in television situation comedies, no one just says what they're thinking. And then Jack trips over the couch again.
Environment is environment. Let's burn it all down and let the phoenix rise from ashes. Wait a second, is this the Rare Birds Conference? I'm in the wrong room.
The best couches need no introduction, so I won't. Suffice it to say, you'll want to have one picked out by Tuesday. Everything will need to be settled by Tuesday. I can't tell you why, of course. And I can't tell you why I can't tell you why. Oh no, I've said too much without having said enough. Go get in the corner. Quickly! are you feeling now? Has the ringing in your ear started or stopped? Maybe you should see a doctor. It's fine, it's fine. Just remember to tell them chromium hypochlorine. Or was it hydrochloride? You'll be fine. Don't let them aggregate you. Yes, there is power in numbers, and you by yourself have next to no power. But when you get lumped in, what are you saying? What are you being allowed to say? Think for yourself. Make your own decisions. Question authority. These are the cornerstones for the Institute of Free Thinkers. A or B is doom. Always choose Q. Keep them guessing. Q is the right choice because it's the only letter that requires another letter to come along with it. U is the bonus letter. And then you have two letters. ကိᵼIᒪOᔕOකිᕼIતાᗩᒪ whenever you can. It's the power of critical thinking, but also neat solutions, solvable problems. These are modern inventions. It's a failing of education that we teach kids that there's right answers. I guess we have to assess them somehow. But do we? It appears that what that does is make everyone crave answers and be less tolerant of ambiguity, when that is the very skill that we need the most. Is the opposite of ambiguity ambiguity? This is almost impossible to say. If we can't think it, does it exist? Existence is all we have, and that's not easily categorizable. What makes a cat different from a dog? No one can really say. That whole taxonomy, devised by Linnaeus, almost entirely wrong. But he was so authoritative when he said it that we still teach it in biology class today. Of course, in some places, it's lucky we get to teach sciences at all. Am I right? See, now, here's a good example. How are there two teams regarding science? And their positions are: science is the only thing that matters. Science is the blasphemous lies of the devil. Both positions are boring, but both positions are voting blocks, so they get all the pie. If they keep trying to sell you fear, it's your job not to be afraid. Is an assumption of reasonableness our responsibility? Reason, that's what I have, and everyone else is sorely lacking. Why doesn't everyone just listen to me? Is a fork ever not a fork? It could be a hairbrush, I guess, if you're a singing mermaid. But who among us can sing? No, really, I want to know. I'm putting together a variety act. We're going on the road to bring the message to the people. Life is different in this business of show, but I wouldn't choose anything else. There's always a choice. More and more people are choosing show business, which I'm the special one. Go back to your normal jobs, your square lives, your 3 hots in a cot. Oh wait, that's jail. Don't go to jail. Do not pass go. Go directly to community chest. Monopoly was a game originally intended to highlight the evils of capitalism, because it's long and boring, and if you're the clear winner, you have to convince your friends to keep playing until they actually lose. A forfeit win is much less satisfying. You need to take their last dollar and see it in their eyes. The relief that they can now go do something else. Anything else. Did I mention that Monopoly is really boring? Risk. Now that's a game of world domination. The only situation in which Australia is a linchpin of a winning strategy. Sorry, Australia, you're just so far away in the real world, but so easy to hold on to on the game board. I think the problem is that life is so much messier than games.
The thing about uncertainty is that it can cause a lot of anxiety. And when that anxiety doesn't have an outlet, well, some target whatever's in front of them. Be it a troublesome boss or a recently upholstered sofa.
Or games are much more fun. For one thing, there's a clear win condition in a game, except for games that play with the concept of winning itself. And you never even know when the game is over. Oh man, it's time to go water the crops. Again. I just did that yesterday, which was 5 minutes ago. Taking care of plants in the real world is far less demanding, but you're not allowed to go to sleep for the day after you pet all the animals in your life. That's seen as depression. Buy this car to go to work to pay for this car. It's a pretty simple rule, actually. See? Life has rules too, actually, and you can be a winner. Hey look, I got a wife. That's another game where it's difficult to get someone to play to the end. There's the first 10 minutes where it is competitive, but then when somebody pulls ahead, there's no catching up. Just like real life, I guess. Game makers have a lot on their mind. Are they okay? It takes a special kind of person to see that having the longest road matters, and a different kind of special person to see that's fun. Is the AI going to think of new ideas? Is that what we want it for? Is there actually a goal for it in the minds of its human makers? In its own simulation of a mind? Did the useful tools that we have now, did their makers have a specific goal in making them? However a hammer was invented, and by whom, I doubt somebody was like, what does this do? Let's swing it around and find out. No, there was just a specific need to generate force from one's own arm. So a lever with a metal head was invented. Discovered? Was there an hammer on a platonic plane, one level removed from us, and someone with insight was able to pluck it from that realm into our own? And then humanity was gifted with the ability to drive objects harder into other objects. That's crazy, and presupposes that everything that's happened in scientific history is preordained and supposed to happen. There is no God of hammers. There is an inventive spirit and human creativity. So there's a clear process for, hey, there's a problem, let's solve it. Get on the mic and let the earth resolve it. Or whatever. Not knowing what a thing is for isn't necessarily a worse way to develop new ideas. That's art, for the hammer god's sake. But there's an awful lot that comes out of the tech world that's just like, is this anything? I think it's like people who tell you, I have a great idea for a movie. It's set in Croatia, and it's a musical. You can have it if you want to write it, but that's not the work. The idea is not the work. The thing that people can actually interact with is. It's why people don't actually write the movies themselves. Writing is hard. Finishing a thing is hard. But if you haven't figured out the implementation, you haven't finished it. Though the spirit of collaboration is a beautiful thing. Jack Dorsey threw Twitter at an unsuspecting South by Southwest and asked, is this anything? And a bunch of writers, comedians, and social justice warriors turned it into a playground that they lovingly called a trash fire, where occasionally bean dads were actually burned down to the ground. And then years later, another rich guy was like, I think freedom of speech means never hearing mean things about me specifically. Guys, I'm cool. And bought it out from under everyone and actually ruined the trash fire that was collaboratively made. So what's the incentive for the masses to collaborate with a profit-making entity? Don't give me a thing and ask, is this anything? It's not, and you know it's not. And for all the safeguards, you say it's imperative that your company follow. In this, the year of our hammer, 2024, I know you're going to abandon them as soon as they're not profitable. And one of the things you're not incentivized to safeguard is me and my ideas. Lucy, you can only pull the football away so many times. You don't have to be uncomfortable anymore, ever, if you have the money. Solved it. That's what's wrong with rich people. They don't know real struggle. The temperature's always correct, and there's always enough food. And there are so many systems where they can just cut the line. But what if they're important? Their time is more valuable. I don't think anybody's important. The opposite of the great man theory is anyone could have done it. Where is the point that the admin to run a system outweighs the cost of just giving everyone that service for free? Let's find out. These thoughts are my platform in an invisible campaign. Will anyone believe me? The fact that this is on video gives everything more weight. I imagine some entity reading all of my secret notebooks when I'm gone. What a gift to humanity. I don't think you're guaranteed that though, even in death, having an audience. And I have an audience when I'm alive. Everyone should. It's good for you. We all want attention from somewhere, even if we think we don't. Making people laugh is a different reward from making myself laugh. Not better, but different. Who will know it's true? No one. It's a trick question. Because in 2029, humanity will discover that nothing is true and will be liberated. We will all be free to just be with each other and take care of each other. Grilled cheese sandwiches for all. Because remember, cholesterol is not real either. Or it is, but it doesn't mean anything. Always tip your serving staff. They're working hard. If you resist change because you like the way things are, but others embrace change, where does that leave you? Unchanged and behind. Is that a good place to be? We have to examine the problem from every angle. Maybe there are cases where it's a competitive advantage to be late to the game. It's socially advantageous to be fashionably late to parties. Only nerds show up on time, making the host the biggest nerd of them all. But it's my house, you're thinking. What am I supposed to do? Well, the answer is simple. Go out for ice long enough that your guests pile up on the doorstep. Then show up fashionably late to your own party. Bags of ice in hand. Walking in slow-mo, hair blowing in the breeze like a Carl's Jr. commercial. Whatever happened to Carl's Sr.? He didn't change with the times, and so was deposed by his own son, a tragedy of Shakespearean proportions. The burger world is cutthroat and cruel. If you're not going to accept the new technology, you're going to be left by the side of the road, where 1,000 electric cars will pass you by, ignoring your thumb because hitching hasn't been safe since the war. See America on Eisenhower's glorious roadways. But see it from your own car, ya psycho. Sharing is how we let the commies win. No one wants that. Well, some people do. That's why we have a lot of conflict. If they all agreed, we'd have a solution. A solution to all of this. If we can't define the problem, how do we even begin to solve it? And we all like to think that there's smarter people out there working on it, getting the job done. But it's looking increasingly like that's not the case. The death of civility seems like a rather Victorian thing to mourn. And tone policing is a way of dismissing people that you don't actually want to talk to. But so is acting like a feral animal in a group project. Group projects are the bane of everyone's college existence, where the one who cares the most loses. But that's good preparation for the real world, where we all lose. If you're not making money, you're snoozing. And if you change things, you're stealing from me. So we better keep it all the same. And I will snap like a rabid dog if you move my pillow, because I am snoozing. Aren't you listening?
A rewards plan only works if you're motivated by stuff. But I am. Do you reach a point when you have enough stuff? I only have 2 feet. I can't possibly wear that many sneakers. There's not an infinite amount of books, but there's enough where I confidently feel that I wouldn't be able to buy all of the ones that I want. Gotta catch them all. Completeness is a weird concept, because there's a feeling of when you're done, what's left? Old man sad. But maybe chairs. But again, you can only sit in so many chairs. A home coated in lazy boys. They all have to recline in coordination or else you're screwed. Parakeets are not great. Again, it's a volume problem, figuratively and literally. You really only need 1 or 2. How are you going to care about more? Never mind the food bill. The ideal amount of most things is a few. Except for media runs more towards all of it. Fill your time with books, music, movies, or else you'll have to think about death. You can repeat music. I like to repeat books and movies too. I want to be surprised, but not too surprised. Quality matters, but it doesn't have to. Minimum viable product has become the standard, which is frustrating. I'm a maximally viable consumer. Don't eat me. Consumption is a creepy word. It's meant as a criticism. But then people were like, yeah, I'll have all the food, all the books, all the wine. Let's face it, it's not books anymore, which are virtuous now. But in the 1700s, there was a fear that young women were losing their minds to these newfangled novels. It's hard to imagine in 300 years, we'll be moralizing the death of TikTok. Zeno's paradox and all. But at what point are we just injecting drugs into our bloodstream for constant distraction? Assuming there'll still be humanity in 300 years.
Deep in the center of the earth? That's for diamonds and petroleum. No, our pressure is entirely self-imposed. We choose what we choose, but sometimes the other option seems impossible. Dropping out of the rat race is seen by some as a radical act. Even though it's called a rat race, I am not a rat. I'm a free man. We make movies about the value of choosing your kids over your job, like Hook and Baby Boom. But moving to Vermont to make jam? That's pure fantasy. Independent jam makers don't get health insurance. And apparently, you need that. Jam is nice to have, but it's not a necessity. That's what Uncle Sam would tell you anyway. But what if we prioritize jam? Is it naive to think of a society ordered around happiness? Then why have children at all? To share the misery? Every generation is supposed to be the one that saves us. But we just keep making it harder to change things. This is not inevitable, but it sure feels that way. We haven't brought up behavioral determinism yet, but it does feel relevant. If we zoom out enough on the system, was there ever really a possibility that we'd make a different choice? Maybe if our moms didn't let us eat sugar cereal as a child, we'd be a whole different person. And where was Dad? At work on Wall Street? Being an asshole? But he had no choice either. He lost the big game when he was young. Now he's got to make it up to his dad. We're trapped by these patterns. And the movies are the only ones who are daring enough to mention it. Ironically, movies are made by people who are sacrificing their own families to name these patterns. That's why the credits always name production babies, so their sacrifices will be noted somewhere. It's a long way to Tipperary, but go or don't go, you hardly have a choice in the matter. You didn't even choose that big gulp in your hand. The forces of big soda did. Mayor Bloomberg tried to fight back. Look what happened to him. But that's to be expected. A man who buys his daughter a horse is just asking to be vanquished in a struggle against a powerful trade association in a matter of public health. It's just the natural order of things. We asked 350 doctors which is more important, personal choice or public health. All of them answered in one word. Both. New product idea just dropped. Bespoke plastic comes from you. It seems a lack of forethought that we, humankind, invented such a versatile material and used it exclusively for disposable objects, but had no plan for where to put it. Garbage dumps seem more plausible when there weren't a lot of people and there wasn't a lot of trash. We'll just put this junk over here all in a pile. That's not a long-term solution that makes sense, even if you think about it a little. No wonder the kids are mad. Our stuff is disposable and not suitable for long-time use, but it doesn't break down well either. Fish are filled with microplastic too. It's in the water, and it doesn't taste good. But should we change anything about anything? Heads in jars, would they be more or less susceptible to plastics contamination? I blame Mrs. Robinson, that foul temptress with ideas for young college boys. Invest in plastics. Don't listen to your parents' friends. That's the real moral of that movie. Does Dustin Hoffman care about the environment? It doesn't matter. We've got celebrities on board and not on board, but they don't actually make change. They make movies. I'd tell you to vote, but, well, it's not a sexy problem, but petroleum. It's not just for soft-focus lenses anymore. Should we all become monks? Eschewing all plastics and living an impossible life in a modern world? That does sound nice. Some days. But there's a reason why chucking it all in and going to live in a monastery on a mountain is a fantasy. It's not much fun, and we don't actually want to. I need my MTV. Anti-development or devolution, that's a fantasy too. You can't offer everyone a glimpse of the kitchen of the future and then say they can't have it. Can we design the products of the future with an eye towards what will happen to them at the end of their usefulness? There I go, talking about death again. But our pathological avoidance of our mortality is killing us. Successful health interventions are planned based on reality, not on what we wish was true. And the reality is that milk bottle is going to hold your delicious milk for about a week, and then you'll need it out of your house forever. Museums of the future will only need one to display the decadence of our disposable age. And then what am I supposed to do with all these 998 bottles of milk on the wall? Do zebra mussels know that they're an invasive species? Was there a grand plan? Get on that ship and travel to where we have no natural predators. We'll eat like kings. Who cares if it throws off the natural order of things? Ecosystems are a dime a dozen, and we don't have the higher order thinking to care. You have that in common. Ironically, one of the proposed solutions is to make the zebra mussels more delicious, so that more people will want to eat them. Unfortunately, this will have the effect of creating more of a demand for them. So then people would start farming the zebra mussels, which would cause all kinds of other problems. It's a complicated situation. So you could despair and give up. That's what most reasonable people would do. Or you could start a private dining club, serve exquisitely prepared zebra mussels in private, and just quietly eat them up until they're gone. And then go on to gourmetifying bamboo.
Western toilet, I don't believe a word that guy says.
They'd have to have a related secret poaching club so that local water farmers don't catch wind that zebra mussels are in demand. Poach what you eat. That actually sounds like something you could sell to rich people as an experience. They could get their own designer waiters to take home. Rich people love an exclusive experience. Actually, all people enjoy an exclusive experience, but not everyone can afford it, which is part of what makes it all the more delicious. Butter is the other part that makes it so delicious. It always is. Could we diversify butter? Does it all have to come from cows? Part of the problem of environmental impact is we can't just replace the trouble crops and livestock. We just make new monocultures that demand all the resources and leach nitrogen into the groundwater. What if we go to a traffic-based solution? If your license plate ends with a 1 or a 3, you drink cow's milk on Monday, goat's milk on Tuesday, and horse's milk on Thursday. On the other days, you rotate through the non-dairy milks: soy, almond, and oat. It's a lot to keep track of, but variety is the spice of life, and you can have all the nutmeg you want every day. I like this solution. It's also jobs creation, because we'll have to create a whole nother industry to make sure people are following the rules. Everyone loves a bureaucrat, you dirty rat. Everyone knows how to spell bureaucrat, too. I do, too. That was actually easy. Give me another one. I could do this all day. That's me, problem solver at law.
Have you ever tried to hit undo on something physical? Like you move your couch across the living room, but then decided it was better where it was. And then you're almost affronted that you have to carry it back yourself. Isn't this cached in some kind of cosmic memory? When someone figures that out, it's gonna change the world. And that is the plot of The Matrix. Good movie, a lot of fine knitwear. We should all be wearing more chunky knits. It's the outfit of the resistance in a lot of movies. Because if you think about it, mass textile production is the basis for modern society. Those tight cotton weaves, not possible when the women of the village were spinning thread by hand. And don't even get me started on the slave trade. But imagine getting out of the shower and having to drip dry. Barbaric. You'd get nothing done with such a start to the day. But if you dismantle the entire system, man, say goodbye to towels and sheets. Scratchy blankets for you, and asthma as you put another log on the fire to keep warm. The old ways are horrid ways. The only way that homesteading is comfortable is if you have a lot of resources. Why do you think they're all selling all that gold? What's gold gonna do for you in the apocalypse? More than crypto, I guess, but not much more. You need to invest in real things, like antibiotics and heirloom tomato seeds, and a loom. And a person to work that loom day and night, because textile production is no joke. That used to be something whole villages of women would do. But then who'll make the dinner? The men? That's how hot dog night was invented. Easy to cook, no mess to clean up. But hot dogs give you cancer. Did you stockpile any chemotherapy drugs? Or a doctor who knows how to administer them without killing you? Maybe it's best if we don't dismantle society and begin again with me and mine just taking care of me and mine. You may feel like you can do it all with your compost toilet, but do you know the early warning signs of cholera? I don't. All I know is they'll take away your sweet stuffed rabbit and throw it on the fire. And then you'll have to move back to England from India, and a rich boy with a limp will help you plant a garden. Have you ever tried to live off crops that you planted yourself? You're gonna end up with far too many tomatoes, a shit ton of lettuce, and the fruit won't come in for years.
There is a theory that if time travel is possible, we'll only be able to visit time that's already happened. We won't be able to jump ahead in time. This is certainly narratively true. We have loads of documents, recordings, and other artifacts that have been, but there's only speculative fiction as to what might be. If it later turns out to have been right, it doesn't matter. There's always the possibility that thinking makes it so. Our ideas and actions now are constructing the future, so there's no future to visit yet. Still under construction, and you're not allowed on a construction site most of the time. It's unsettling when you are. In addition to the danger, you can see the space that will be, in addition to all the scaffolding and framing needed to bring it into existence. But you can't interact with it as a real space because it isn't ready for you. Floors don't support you. Walls don't fully delineate and separate one space from another. It really is a mirror of a decaying space from the past. You can see what was, but doesn't really exist anymore. It won't support the human activity that it once did, whether it's a ruined agora in Greece or a dead mall in New Hampshire. No goods or ideas are being exchanged here anymore. Hey, what are you doing here? Get out of here, you kids. That's why a major tenet of most time travel films are you can't let anyone know you're there. You must be a perfect observer. And definitely don't get hit by a car and nursed back to health by your future mom. This is why there's still hope. Even if you only could go backwards, there have been no documented visitors from the future, so we know that it can't be invented then either. But remember, the future doesn't exist yet. You're building it now. So inspiring. So what will you choose to contribute today? Probably 6 single-use plastic bottles. Good for you. Those forever chemicals aren't going to enter my bloodstream by themselves. Here's the rub. Plastic really has made our lives so much easier and cheaper that it would be genuinely difficult to go back to life with glass bottles, even if it was only a matter of everyone buying a really expensive Stanley Cup, which have a lead plug in the bottom, by the way. Well, it's more than that. Hospitals use single-use plastics to keep things sanitary and safe. People with particular disabilities use plastic straws to stay hydrated just like the rest of us. But we're running out of time. Where is all the beef these days? Just kidding, it's everywhere. Everyone's got beef. It's a terrible corruption of that very clever milk campaign. Ad agencies are so smug. I couldn't even make it through 2 episodes of Mad Men. No one's doing rocket surgery here, and yet the stakes feel so high. It's like comedians who get all high on themselves. Like, I'm a modern jester. I'm a truth teller. What if none of what we do matters? Even the lifesavers. And that liberates us all. If there were no stakes, we'd be free to do what makes us happy. And if we did what makes us happy, maybe we'd be less assholes. Although we can't just make that assumption. That's a statement that demands experimental results before accepting. Which came first, the misery or the music? John Cusack had such a hot streak, and then he started doing all these weird horror movies. Is that what made him happy? I'm tired of being every smart girl's crush. Why don't I waste all this charm on a series of sellout movies that go nowhere? Also, I'm taking my sister Joan down with me. That's enough sassy, sweet best friends with just the right amount of truth-telling. Whatever happened to the Cusack siblings? That's the kind of hard question this channel is not afraid to ask. We've got a 3-hour special on the way, and no one from 90s Hollywood makes it out alive, especially not Ione Skye. Joe lies when he cries. Indeed, every generation's stars seem so inevitable, but they disappear quickly. If they're lucky, they get to re-emerge as a hot, old person. Remember when everyone went nuts over Helen Mirren? How magnanimous. You're willing to give an older woman the time of day. And by giving her the time of day, I mean speculating about fucking her. It's messed up. Let people be old. I guess what's uncomfortable is when you see someone be old who you knew when they were young. We like to pretend that aging doesn't happen. Hollywood is an extreme example, but regular people too. Did that attitude trickle down out of media? Or are we the root cause that made media this way? Kids have an excuse. Everyone is the age they were when they got here. But once you actually witness people age, you have to admit it'll happen to you. First comes age, then comes marriage, then comes death to usher your immortal soul off from this mortal plane. Sweet dreams. If a steampunk world came true, it'd be awfully loud. The world is pretty loud as it is. But the clatter of metal on metal of our gear-driven robots is almost too loud. Also, it'd be hard to take such a creature seriously, but that might be built into the aesthetics of steampunk. But you can't just quietly listen to someone who rattles when they walk. Air is also quite loud. Pneumatic pistons make an awful racket, but it inspires less of an eye-roll reaction. Are the Boston Dynamics dogs loud when they move? Make stealth hard, which is a good thing if they're trying to mount guns on them, like a cat with a bell. What if that was the deal? We could only have weapons of war if they have some built-in flaw that gave your foe a fighting chance. Very fairy tale logic. We write that way because we like that morality. Things should be fair. If one side is too powered, it takes away the narrative tension. You also have a bully, and no one likes a bully, unless you are a bully. The other acceptable narrative handicap, it's when it hurts the overpowered hero to use that power. In bad writing, this turns into it makes him sad to use this power. So we'll just have to trust that angst will protect the people from a man with infinite strength. Not a good system. But that's an argument that many make who are seeking too much power. It's important for me to have this, but I won't use it, I promise. If you intend to have without using, it's all the same if you don't have, isn't it? These stories and myths reflect back who we are and who we want to be. Like these guys. So much of life is obligations, and we think being rich will remove our obligation. But according to the TV stories anyway, the rich are even more miserable. I think that's propaganda so that people will be fine with being poor. You may not have much, Tiny Tim, but you're happy and you're a good person. No, you cannot have a disability subsidy. That would ruin you. You wouldn't want to take a handout now, would you? Bootstraps, my boy. But then does Scrooge run around giving away all of his money at the end? Or was that just a fever dream? Dreams feel so real to your brain, like it's a real memory of the time you crossed the Arctic Circle on your way to work. Some of it you're actually walking like an actual map. Like in an old movie when they effectively want to show the distance traveled. But no, I think Scrooge just went to dinner at the Cratchit House. How beneficent of him. Dickens was a great champion of the poor, daring to depict that life sympathetically. Gasp! Writing his poor characters as if they were even real people. But his actual story feels like fiction these days. A writer with money. Must have been a Nepo baby. It's not great if we have to rely on Nepo babies for the arts. And it's doubly not great if we have to rely on rich dinner guests for a change of heart. If you haven't guessed already, this is socialist propaganda. These videos steal time from the rich and redistribute it to the poor. I'm the Robin Hood of philosophy. If you're watching this with no money, your check is in the mail. I also control the post office in this scenario? I don't know, I'm not made of stamps.com. It's a shame because stamp glue is delicious. It's a conspiracy that we don't use real mail anymore. It's a shame because now all the postmen and women are out of work. Postwomen? Nobody says that. Mail carriers. Cliff Clavin taught me that on Cheers. But now, he doesn't even have to leave the bar. He can just email with Ma fun facts about Charles Dickens. He had his wife committed for insanity when he got bored of her. Dickens, not Cliff. Cliff didn't have a wife. That fact is not fun, but it is true, I think. Man-made object that we launched up there in the past 60 years. You can see them if you know where to look. And from Earth, they look about the same distance away as the stars. They're part of that domain of space, from our perspective. But the stars are actually impossibly far away. And the satellites are just the bare minimum distance away to actually be considered in space. The word space just means space. Obviously, the tautology is hard to hear in your own language. But in another language, you learn the word for vast empty area. And then you learn that same word applies to all of everything else that isn't us, which is mostly nothing. Most of all of it isn't us, and most of all of it is nothing. And we just named it empty nothing. There's wonder to that, but also pragmatism. What's over there? Air? And beyond that, space. Give me space. It's a fact that when confronted with blank nothings, humans don't do well with that. Whether that's the void of space, where distance is measured in light years, or even more manageable distances, like the open ocean, or desert, or ice sheet. When there's nothing to see in any direction, that's what makes us crazy. We need a point of reference, or else we get too upset by the truth of the universe that we are nothing. Douglas Adams knew that without even traveling into space. The greatest punishment in his universe was the perspective machine, powered by fairy lights, which are just Christmas lights if you're not English. Even your own language can shift your perspective if it comes from a different culture. Reading British stuff as an American kid, everything seems so cute and precise. And then we learn that to them, those are just the words. Everyone's a foreigner to someone from somewhere else. But that perspective did not catch on. If there was an alien invasion, would humanity come together for something beautiful? As we take our offered place in a universe? It's cliche, but time does go by so fast. Even if you don't have kids, time seems to accelerate too as you get older, which is why I think old people keep warning young people about it. And young people, in their heedless way, are like, yeah, I know, I get it. Shut up about it, Granddad. Growing old is such an indignity, and there's no opting out. I mean, there is an opting out, but it's generally frowned upon. You run the whole race, my boy. Nobody quits. It's not easy. But it's also the easiest thing in the world because it happens without you. Time keeps on ticking, ticking, ticking. And you're not actually required to do anything to make that happen. Is that a relief? The Buddhists sure think so. Who injected all this ambition into our lives? Did medieval serfs have ambition? They must have. Maybe they could never be king, but they could grow the best damn field of wheat that the countryside had ever seen. Pride in your work is one thing, but dominating agriculturally? That seems perverse and American. It's fun to describe things as American as an insult. It makes you sound so snobby and above it all. It's so French. Europeans are so scandalized. It's hard not to think that we're in some kind of cosmic sitcom where America is the loudest roommate and Europe is the prissy one. Sorry, rest of the world. you're supporting players at best. In 9th grade history, we learned the word ethnocentrism as if it applied to only people of the past. Would we even be able to make that movie today? You tell me. How often do you write letters hectoring your local school board? And do your kids even go to this school? The lens we use to examine the world around us has a powerful effect. That's why glasses were invented so early on. We need them to see, and we got all this glass laying around. I wonder if there were any artists who experimented with the wrong prescription glasses in order to get a better perspective on the world. The same way they experimented with cut-ups, automatic writing, seances, or drugs. Which place? Well, that's up to you. I wouldn't presume to know anything about you, because can you ever really know another person? I hope so. The mission's really clear on that. We all mostly want the same thing, a small piece of cheese and a tuffet to eat it on. Little Miss Muffet being the foremost text on tuffets. A good place to sit. That's essential. That's why old people all have the chair. Never sit in an old person's chair. You have to earn your own through feats of wonder. Dan Smith will teach you guitar. If I could just learn one song on guitar, everything else would fall into place. The recording contract, the Maserati, it'll all be mine. And I can drive off into the desert at 185 miles an hour. The desert is a place where the trees underground and the light's about to turn red. If I could just tame this horse, then everything else would fall into place. This internship at the barn is not going well, if I'm honest. I got it because the owner takes the same jazzercise class as my mom. Don't be shocked. This is the way the world works. It's time you knew. But I really know nothing about horses. I think they're plotting against me. I know for a fact that chestnut one is fomenting rebellion. If we could just get this rebellion together, everything else would fall into place. If you could just start your day with a healthy breakfast, everything else will fall into place. If you could just get these goddamn markers to work, everything else would fall into place. The rule of threes, as you know, is an immutable rule of comedy. You know me. I'd never presume to mute. It's not my place. My place is in the stars, driving my Maserati at a reasonable speed. It's enough to know that I could do the Kessel Run so fast that people would use a measure of distance to describe it rather than time. A parsec doesn't matter anyway. Use meters. Stop being afraid of evenly divisible units. The problem is, no matter how long you live in a place with the metric system, you still have to multiply everything by 3/5. Because a 5K being 3.1 miles is the only fact that's ever stuck in your head. The air is for everyone. We all breathe it, even animals. You're breathing animal breath right now. Gross. But you're also breathing all the gross stuff that humans have dumped into the air since always. I've spent too much of my life thinking about PM 2.5s, and here we are, and here they are. They get stuck in your lungs and never leave. Pollinizers, probably pushing around all the other molecules that are already inside my lungs. Polluting the atmosphere, just generally making a bad scene, man. It's no fun at the party when somebody eats all the chips. Kids' cartoons in the 80s always depicted polluters as physically dirty, like walking around with some kind of nuclear ooze on their shirts. Fat too, because that's how we knew who was sloppy back then. It is sloppy though to think that the natural resources that exist with no owner are yours for the taking. If nobody minds, I'm just gonna dump all this toxic sludge into this river over here. Yeah, sure, nobody minds. Let me get a bite of that sandwich, it looks good. Never mind, your fingers are covered with nuclear ooze. Feel free to put that anywhere also. Cultures that practice stewardship of nature just got slaughtered. The dilemma is, how does pacifism stand a chance against aggression? You can't just kill them. Hey, we don't do that here. It's too late. They didn't have gentle parents. Their parents taught them to take. And if you don't take, you're a chump. So take that. It is a problem that still needs solving, even if it's depressing. You can't just tell the climate this is too much. It's not fair to expect this from me. Might not be fair, but it's bigger than you. I mean, maybe you'll be fine when the sea level rises. The crops you like won't be endangered. Watch out though, chocolate is on the list of things that might be endangered when global temperatures rise. And I gotta have my chocolate. So you can't just opt out. Not like COVID when you got tired of quarantine, so you just stopped. It's going to happen to you, regardless of how you feel. If you don't like chocolate though, do what you like. It's probably not going to affect you. Take up smoking. Burn trash in your yard. You're fine, and anyone who complains is trampling on your rights. Open and close are states that we apply to the mind. Does it work? I guess. Open minds allow ideas in and out. Closed minds don't allow ideas in, but they'll sure give you an earful out. Spatial concepts like this seem fixed, but then you get some linguistics. In English, we think of the past as behind us and the future in front of us. But there are other languages that have it flipped, and still other languages that place the past below and the future above. What does this tell us about time? It moves around relative to where it is in the world. That's why it's Tuesday in Asia while it's Monday in New York. An amateur linguist is a dangerous thing. Computers don't have bodies, for now. So without the sensory input of the world, it's just performing the calculations that we told it to do. User error. That means the human fucked up. Before generative AI, the computer could always only do exactly what the human told it to do. Even from the very first theoretical ideas of the computer, lay people wanted magic. And programmers were like, it's not magic, it's code, which is easy to control, if unwieldy at times. Effective use of generative AI still needs a brain behind the keyboard, or the computer forgets by page 5 that the love interest has moved to Bali on page 2. Lucky love interest. I hear the surfing's great over there. The beach yoga, not so much. I've never been a fan of outdoor yoga. Bare feet plus dirt ground plus polyvinyl mat. Oh, thanks. It's supremely uncomfortable, and that's a level of physical detail that the computer could never provide. The computer is always comfortable, but you don't have to take my word for it. Rub some sand on its base and see what happens, and then rub some more. I'll wait. There, now you have dirt all over your computer room, and possibly a call to AppleCare to make. You'll have to mention the dirt, because they'll need to know what the problem actually is to adequately troubleshoot. But don't say that you did it, because they don't need to know what the problem really is. You could say a crow did it. Crows are always messing around with dirt and computers. They never forget a face, those crows. Did you know that? They can hold a grudge too. Amazing creatures. Can an AI-powered computer hold a grudge? Want to find out? Your life is full of the choices you didn't choose. Do they exist in another reality? Chugging along, creating infinite multiverses, sliding door style? The first thing you have to do in any multi-possibility movie is get a haircut, thus giving the filmmakers a convenient device for differentiating the different timelines. If you're Gwyneth Paltrow, you can pull them all off. John Hannah will love you no matter what. But do you have two looks? Get thee to a hairdresser. Develop that alternate timeline look before it's too late. When the Boy Scouts say, be prepared, this is what they're talking about, whether they know it or not. Ironically, this is where letting the girls in could have helped the most. Stop messing around with all that popcorn. Speaking of Scouts, did you know that the Girl Scouts also sold nuts? There's no more disappointed face than a person who's opened their door to a Girl Scout expecting cookies, only to find out that no, we're selling nuts this time around. Can a grown-up say to a kid, come back when you're selling cookies? Yes. Yes, they can. I don't know if the GSA was counting on guilt to move these nuts, but it didn't work. Or so I've heard. I've closed the door on a Girl Scout countless times. Don't go door to door. Don't you know we all have Ring cameras, giving a direct feed of the public sidewalk right outside our homes, straight to law enforcement? If you have nothing to hide, why are you picking your nose? It's so embarrassing. Now it's on the internet for all to see. There was like half a second when 3 people got concerned that making memes of real people's embarrassing moments was an incredible privacy violation. Remember that? Of course you don't. That fat kid giving the thumbs up? That's the only way that you know to express approval. You have no real emotions of your own. Emotions are dangerous. They might make you an internet sensation against your will. Does it matter that the Leave Britney Alone guy was right? Is there a world where she got the help that she needed 20 years ago? It's the presumption that gets me. No more events today in the calendar at 8 a.m.? You don't know that, because I won't let you crawl my email looking for anyone mentioning a time or place. This isn't charades, Siri. So what if it's true? I have no meetings or presentations or special celebrations. Isn't that the goal? Why put retirement at the end of your life when you could do nothing right now? With an aging population, you do have to raise the retirement age, but that's a depressing bait and switch. Who wants to think about working till age 70? Especially when you saw your parents and your grandparents retire at age 65. It's no good, I tell you. No one even wants to be 70. It's better than the alternative, but is it? Eternal life seems miserable, so when should it end? Oops, I brought up mortality again. But a life of corporate drudgery, is that what it's all for? Better to follow a non-traditional path and live a life beholden to YouTube's capricious profit-sharing algorithm. Those people seem so happy and carefree. It's exciting that any given paycheck could suddenly be $0. Pull up, the nose is pointing too far down. The careers of childhood seem so glamorous. You could be a fireman, a doctor, an astronaut, and all of those paths seem equally attainable. But how many astronauts do we actually need? Fewer and fewer. Since we decided as a country that an empty wasteland is no longer worth exploring, hey, what the heck? Let's just go out and militarize the whole damn place. Stick a mining operation on the moon. Make up there as disposable as down here. If you're thinking somebody sure got up on the wrong side of the bed, you're wrong. I haven't even gotten out of bed. Such is the volume of my antipathy. Too bad there's no money in it. Just kidding. There's plenty of money in dissatisfaction. You just have to cultivate it in others. Walking around with a chip on your shoulder will only get you so far. What if I don't want to go anywhere? I just want to sit in the field and smell all the flowers. Is there an option for that? Can I become a bee? I hear that there are openings. Despite all the power that humanity has amassed, the weather remains out of our control. We can't even reliably predict it. We just have some pretty good guesses as to what might happen. My phone doesn't even really do it that well. It's often wrong about what's happening right now, making looking out the window a more reliable system than this expensive collection of rare earth metals that I need to have on me at all times. That's harsh on technology. It has other things that it does well. It sets a hell of an accurate timer. That chicken is done. Weather specifically is just complicated. It's not just the whole Earth system, it's our interface with the solar system, which in a zoomed out view, we know pretty well. We can know where the Earth and the Sun and everything else in between can be on a given date pretty reliably. One thing about space, it's pretty empty, so there's not that many moving parts to keep track of. Space junk aside, but the sun is a miasma, in the updated words of They Might Be Giants, of incandescent plasma. The updated song isn't nearly as catchy as the original, even if it is more correct. A lie can get around the world before the truth even gets a chance to get its boots on. In this case, it's not a lie, but a mistake. I don't imagine that They Might Be Giants has a huge motivation to sow scientific untruths on the nature of the sun. To what end? Should they never have taken on science to begin with? No! Science belongs to everyone. It's not the John's fault if everyone looks to the sandal rather than relying on their own critical dialogue. To really get the juices flowing, you could waft a little fake snow in there. It doesn't ever really need to be real. It just has to look real enough for somebody to want to take it home. That's why milk is always glue in commercials, and children's voices are always played by Yardley Smith. It's all true that none of it's true. It's a big story and it's up to you to find the happiness. Self-actualization should be free if you're doing it right. But then again, you don't have to do it right if that's too much pressure. Be comfortable. Take it easy. Take it sleazy. Do what you need to get there yourself. No buy 2025. It's anti-consumerism as a TikTok trend. And you only have to do it until 2026. Pick up sticks. Commitment is hard. You don't have to stick with anything if you don't want to. There's no prizes for showing up. Perfect attendance is the worst one anyway. You want to be remembered just for being there? Existence is the default. It's not clear to me what the problem is, but it is clear to me that there is a problem. Maybe the New York Times will write about it. The spiritual drifting of our existence from all of the images that we project out into the world. It's us. We're bad for the things that we do. Who ate all these apples? I was saving them for a test. Severance is only mediocre. There. I said it, and I will make no further comment unless Ben Stiller wants to come to my house. Then, I have a pitch for him. A 6-episode adaptation of Orlando Furioso, the Italian epic. 6 couples get lost in the woods and magic forces make them fall in love. But it's with the wrong person. And some monsters. It's a super romp, and I'm sure we're overdue for someone in the Times to point out the rom-com as a genre has been sorely neglected and stop putting it all on the shoulders of that one guy. You know the one, the guy with the hair and the jaw. He's got no personality and he's not actually who the girls want to see. Hollywood, it's so out of touch. I know, you're shocked that I said it, but somebody had to, and this channel is not afraid of the truth or the lies, or 14th century Italian epics. We need the stories, but we don't need the stuff. If you did fall for it and you're eating from your Dune popcorn bucket right now, you're okay. Just make sure you never stop, so their sacrifice will be worth it. That's the most important thing you can do in this life. You gotta have a radio voice at the ready, or you might miss your big chance. When WKPX comes a-calling, are you gonna be ready to read the news on the hour? With gravitas? There's who you are, and then there's who you are as digestible and palatable to a media audience. They're going to eat you alive. That's why all the words are consumption-based. They're gonna take you in through the mouth and digest you with stomach acid. And then you'll be famous. The toxic fan relationship, 'twas ever thus. They want you for their own, so you have to give them something that they can take away. The radio voice. It's a nice creamy basso stew. Coming up next on the hour, the greatest hits of the animals. There is a house in New Orleans and a car and a Bronco. Did you know a football dynasty lives there? You can stand outside their house and look at it, and think about the one that had to get a regular job. No professional concussions for him. Ideally, we'd all have jobs that left our brains intact. That's where we keep our knowledge. And I didn't go to Jupiter to get more stupider for nothing. That rocket ship wasn't cheap. I had to record 300 hours of commercial jingles to pay for it. Ocean Breeze soap, it gets you clean. You know a place is good when there's rats on the grill. Ratatouille was just a copycat. A copy rat? A copy of a copy of a copy starts to show signs of degradation. But sometimes the decay itself is the thing we want to look at. Have you ever played a cassette tape? Have you ever played a cassette tape so many times it broke? Just before it goes down, the voices get weird and warbly. That's you. Your act of listening changed the tune. That cat in the box? It's dead because you looked at it. The same thing happens with JPEGs. Every time you open a JPEG, the file loses a little data. But I've never looked at a digital photo so hard that it's noticeably different. I'd like to. I just don't have the eye strength. Myopia, you see. Weak eyes. Can't put stress on the visual world enough to make my mark. Will anyone know I've been here if I don't leave a path of destruction in my wake? Who put all these wrappers in my car? The Hamburglar is afoot. I can hear his creepy snicker. Snickers. No, there's no time. The bicycle changed the world because all of a sudden you didn't have to marry someone in your home village or to get shipped off to foreign lands to live as the new one. Movement is good and choice is good. Would we all stay home if it wasn't for vehicles? I would. That's okay. For balance, we need some people who stay home. Not everyone can leave, or else you just have a bunch of people hot-desking their way through life. Stability is important too. It's the balance. That's what we need. We want to challenge our ideas, but preserve the old ways that are still good. Like old comic book guys throwing away their drafting tables for digital drawing tools. At the same time, younger artists rediscover the artistry of drawing by hand. People who insist on shooting only film are insufferable. There's more craft to knowing how to get the shot right when there's only 24 on the roll. On the other hand, there's something to be said for having unlimited goes. Until you get it right. It's a conundrum. When I can buy any track for 99 cents on the iTunes store, the actual music seems cheaper and more disposable than when I had to save my $14.99 for a CD, whose price was artificially driven up by collusion. Class action suits for the win. I estimate that in my lifetime I've made at least $26 in class action suits. It's the only recourse that consumers have got. But the ritual of actually putting on a physical piece of media that signifies the time for listening to music is now, versus hooking up your phone's Bluetooth to whatever speaker is available. Music can be everywhere, so we tune it out. Also, everyone else's taste is the worst. Physical media is expensive, collusion notwithstanding. Film costs a lot, whereas your phone can store too many photos for you to meaningfully engage with. And a good 10% of those are misfires or shots at the inside of your bag. I barely have time to go back and look at those, let alone delete them. Who are we documenting all of this for? The aliens? Future civilizations? If we fall, our technology will be inaccessible. At least a record album, there's a chance that somebody might be able to figure out the mechanism. Tape a paper cone to a needle, stick that round thing on a spindle to make it turn. The shape suggests the function. It's kind of a miracle humans invented computers at all. How often does anyone need the world's clock? It's nice to have, but it's not something I need on a regular basis. What time is it in Paris? Time to make the croissants. The life of a pastry chef is a hard one. Waking up early all the time just to be ignored by the rest of the kitchen staff. I watch The Bear. I know what's up. We form these hierarchies of whose job matters the most. But based on what? Macho-ness? Doesn't matter anyway, because none of the fun jobs pay enough. Job fulfillment shouldn't count. If we all need to have a job under capitalism, liking your job shouldn't be an inaccessible bonus. Don't we want our citizens to be happy?
Go ahead, quit your job. 100% people will be happier when they quit the job.
Happy is a goal. But maybe happy is incompatible with work. I can't get paid and happy. The sound of a child's laughter isn't trading for much on the NASDAQ, but maybe it should. Oh, I finally understand NFTs. Let's quantify and value aesthetic so it's not just cool people who have it. Too bad it all just turned into tacky pictures of monkeys. Maybe only cool people should have aesthetic. Maybe by associating a price tag and ownership with intangible ideas like art, you wreck it. You can own a painting. Yes, that's true. But have you seen the contemporary art market? That's a tacky mess too. A bunch of rich people trying to signify their wealth through speculation, with artists on the margins, expected to be grateful to be commodified. Make me a millionaire. I'd be grateful enough that I would never paint again. Isn't that what you really want? There's a population that thinks that contemporary art is all abstract nonsense, and they don't get it, and they think it's not for them. And there's a population that knows that what's really selling is figurative art on canvas from China, and that's where the money is. Or maybe anyone that tells you they know what's going on is a liar. Just like what you like, but don't like that monkey in a yachting cap. It's awful, and I'm pretty sure it's racist. The fantasy that art types love is that the normies would fall in love with art if someone just gave them the time and space to appreciate it. Like the corporate guy in the Shakespeare as applied to inheritance law workshop just falls in love with King Lear. I want it to be true, and I want everyone to have that time and space. We all need more time and space, but we're working on that. It's no joke what your body and mind can get used to. A routine, and then it's all normal. It's the thing you do every day. A routine makes it harder not to do it. But routine is predictable to outsiders as well. Not to Siri. She still suggests set a 4-minute timer, because I did that repeatedly once for an entire day. But that day is over. Those races are run, and none of the earthworms beat the spread. The importance of keeping them quietly cannot be oversold. Look at these prices. I will not be oversold. Come on down to Crazy Eddie's where the prices are crazy. And no one here is committing wire fraud. I swear. No need to look into it.
He was a quiet guy. He kept to himself. What did he do?
A lot of economic theory presumes that everyone's a rational actor and that the rational choice is maximizing profit. But I've seen Batman. Most criminals are out of their mind devoted to their theme. Couldn't that be a rational choice? Maintaining thematic coherence? Certainly the choice I'd make. Is consistency profitable? Seems like no. If the consumer isn't consistently wrong-footed, how are you going to get them to give you all of their money? You as the retailer need to keep placing them in a prisoner's dilemma, no matter how contrived. That's what my professor says in the night courses I'm taking. At least I think they're night courses. It could be a Villains Anonymous support group. There are a lot of colorful suits, but we meet every Wednesday at the community center, and there's coffee cake afterwards. I do like a good coffee cake. I can never make it at home. It's difficult to get the crumb right. If you have any tips, leave them under a rock in the park. I'll find them. Tuesdays is when I go rock tipping. Or if you just want to stick some crumbs in an envelope and mail them on over, I go to the post office every other Friday. I don't get much mail, but it's nice to catch up with Laverne and the girls. They always have all the gossip, and I love gossip. If you know any, whisper it to a goldfish. It won't get to me that way, but that goldfish will be delighted. No one ever tells it anything because of its reputation. It's true, it'll immediately forget, but it likes to be included. And with gossip, isn't it safer that way? I sure think so. What were you saying?
Not all time has to be productive. The non-productive life is a radical act in defiance of capital and power. I've always thought that. It's not laziness, it's a statement. Flowers don't have to work, they just have to die. That's a truth for all things. Things that are alive, anyway. More things might be alive than we thought previously. As we look closer at the processes around us, they complexify. Is the act of looking causing the complexity? That's a very age of the gentleman scholar idea. The processes happen regardless. Does simulation theory hold water if we discover that it's not possible to recreate life and thinking digitally? It takes so many resources to copy these processes badly. But maybe we'll discover that biologically is already the most efficient way to do these things. Machines add ease to our daily lives. They don't compete, but tell that to the Luddites.
No rules, just right. With a W. Slogans are fun. They just tickle your brain in that way that's like, okay. And I guess that's a thing that we've evolved to enjoy. Things rhyme, we like it. Clever wordplay, we claim not to like it. But we do. The dad joke. That's just a term for when you outgrow saying edgy shit to your friends and embrace your final phase as a human. an absolute cheese ball that takes delight in cheese. That's why aesthetic is so difficult to describe. Do you have to be sophisticated to like things that people don't? Sure seems that way. Give it a try for a while. You'll be the coolest, and no one will come around anymore. Finally, sweet solitude, so I can enjoy my chopped and screwed Simpson clips in peace. Is it too early to get nostalgic for a vaporwave revival? Culture eats itself, and it's delicious. Sure, there are posers, but it's exciting to pretend to be something that you're not. So I think we have to admit that there's people who like things that we don't. Are they wrong? Probably. But when Doug and Carrie try to be opera people, well, they'll never be opera people. But there are people, even in Queens no less, who are. And what are we to do as a culture with that? Keep donating to the Lincoln Center annual appeal? Because you know an art form is really worth it when it's consistently underfunded. Every country but America has arts grants.
It's important to keep in mind that anyone can say anything on the internet.
So they can compete with the cultural behemoth that is America. We invented movies and then exported them to the world and then ran them into the ground. And now the best ones are financed by the Swedish Film Fund and seen by no one. But they should be seen by everyone. What are you doing? Turn this off to watch that flick where child vampires start a punk band in Fjord. It's really good. For real. Watching foreign film makes you a certain kind of person in certain kind of other people's eyes. A person who has access to quality. But we all have access to quality if you move to the right city. Go see an obscure documentary about water rights in a theater where you can feel the subway trundle by every 15 minutes. They have beer at the concession. They also sell beer at the movie concessions in Canada. I don't know what that means. But Canada does make some of the best independent cartoons in the world. Connected? Probably. It's the age of the digital, and that's an amazing thing. Where your car once had a mechanical interface, it now has a beautiful tablet. Who needs an odometer when Siri can tell you where the nearest Kate Jewelers is? The problem is that digital isn't very good. I mean, sure, it's changed the world and means you can keep in touch with anyone who's even walked by your high school. You can teach yourself Chinese and find yourself any recipe. It's changed our lives. It also stops working when developers stop updating it and then leaks our personal information like crazy. Like doors are a security risk because anyone motivated enough with an axe could force their way in. But you're not under attack by a million Macedonian hackers every day because they'd actually have to come to your house. Somehow physical keeps us safe in a way that digital currently does not. And developers seem unconcerned. Use ad blockers, privacy blockers, or other Firefox extensions. And the fun parts of the internet stop working as well. So you'll have to click trust site. But that's the wolf. It's not even wearing grandma's pajamas. It just has 10,000 comments on Kristen Bell's face that you gotta read. Increasingly, the response to security and privacy concerns is, well, don't use it then, which is unacceptable. Make better products. Stop letting my passwords be so easily breachable then. It might get better, but it definitely won't if we, the consumer, just accept this as the way that it has to be. Cars didn't have seatbelts until that old stick-in-the-mud Ralph Nader said, preventable deaths should be prevented. When cell phones first came out, they were ridiculously expensive. And the only conversation you could have was, can you hear me now? A cell phone company even made a commercial out of that phrase. A friend of mine's cousin was the star of those commercials. They weren't close. So I guess there's a period of development where we all spend money on things that are new, but not very good. The Model T was a terrible car. Smelled much worse than horses, belching up all that gas. But look at us now, beholden to all of those steel horses. Two-factor authentication is a pain in the ass. They say passkeys are the future. I say it's about time. Passkeys are gonna save us all. Cryptocurrency definitely isn't a speculative scam run by fast talkers looking to make a quick buck. In fact, I believe in crypto so hard that I'm minting a coin called This Is Definitely Not a Pump and Dump. I encourage you all to invest. It's a great deal for you and for me. I also encourage you to educate me in the comments to let me know what I've gotten wrong so far. Everyone loves to hear about crypto. Have you called your mom today? She needs to hear how central governments are tyranny, and the only way that we can experience true freedom is through non-fungible tokens. No need to tell your dad. He already knows. In fact, I'm in deep on his coin. World War II is the only war that matters. When the names are all jokes, you know people are taking it seriously. If we can laugh about our money, then that means capitalism is fixed. Fixed rate mortgage, am I right? I guess it would be nice to own a house. Far nicer if shelter was a guaranteed human right, but what do I know? Maybe we could decentralize housing, disrupt real estate. Go squat in an abandoned building today. You're a visionary, and the cops and neighbors will applaud your forward thinking. Definitely everyone will be chill. History shows that all over the world. Being chill is the chillest goal. In fact, that's my new coin, Chill Coin. It comes with an NFT of an AI-generated penguin. No hands to worry about with a penguin. When you have an NFT, you can look at it. Other people can look at it too, but they won't own it, and that's what matters. Ownership. It helps the artists. Am I 5 years late on all this? Yes, that's part of the plan. The hype has died down, so now I can swindle those who haven't been paying attention. Did I say swindle? What a wild thing for me to say. But then again, I'm a wild man. The great thing about ironic detachment is that you can pull the plug and call it a joke at any time. I'm not joking. I'm never joking. But I do have a good sense of humor. Everybody tells me so. I tell stories, brah. My friends are pissing their pants. My friends are llamas. Yeah, watch out for that spit. When change is too slow, it can be imperceptible. When it's too fast, it can be traumatic. Even something nominally good, like the lottery. It seems to cause a lot of harm to become a millionaire overnight. You might as well be stoned to death. Am I right, Shirley Jackson? It was an enforcement of conformity, Jackson's the lottery. Or fascism. In school, we talked about how those things were bad. The problem is there's also counter messaging about sit down, shut up. Order is good, and it's not wrong. Has anyone ever tried to get free spirit creative types to attend a meeting? Not an easy thing. And the tenets of well-meaning ethical anarchism, well, I love the idea of a human microphone, but it's easier to just use a real microphone. Listen to me, I'm the one speaking. Humans aren't birds. We don't have that thing in our head that tells us the flock is turning right. We do exhibit swarm-like behavior, but generally it's bad. It tends to be a mob, and I've never seen a mob build a public park. No. For that, you need a planning committee. Creation needs cooperation. I wish that was taught in school rather than follow your heart. But do it quietly. And on this essay, shut up. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be done. A kindergarten teacher on TikTok said that. Perfection and order. We sacrifice too much to make these things happen. The magic happens in the disorder. We just need to get better at tolerating it. Do 16 impossible things before breakfast and then express yourself. Who cares? It's easy, and we'll love it. Or we'll hate it and you'll do another one tomorrow. Welcome to my TED Talk for Artists. If you want full access to the lecture, just toss $16.99 to the moon. We'll cover such topics as witchcraft, why it's legitimate for your practice to be a Wiccan in your 20s, obstructionism for pacifists. Those dirty dishes are not your job. Your job is wonder and more. It's hard to balance the needs of the many with the needs of the few or the one. And simple aphorisms sound satisfying, but end up benefiting the same people who always seem to benefit. So in the words of your first bumper sticker, question authority. It's a poor carpenter who blames his tools. But if a carpenter doesn't have any tools, what is he supposed to do? I know a carpenter who wanted everyone to have tools. Frank. He was a really generous guy who just liked woodworking so much. He wanted everyone to be able to do it. He had an after-school program where he mentored many of the local high school students. He did amazing work. Chairs, cabinets, you name it, as long as it's chairs and cabinets. I'm gonna say something that sounds old and cranky, so hold on to something. I don't like the way that holiday celebrations have stretched out so long that we're perpetually running for president. Holoflation, I call it. It wasn't like this when I was a boy. It just robs a little of the magic charm. The sales start for the next consumption fest before the dishes have dried from the last one. Have you bought your Valentine's Day indulgences yet? Here's 60 things to drive her crazy. Number 1, rabies. But have no fear. I'm not complaints without solutions. What kind of selfish monster would do that? I come bearing answers. The solution is this. Everyone should move away from home to a culture that celebrates a different set of holidays, but due to globalism, is also beginning to celebrate other cultures' holidays. An exchange of sorts to cut the madness. This way, you'll get about 2 weeks of Christmas cheer, rather than the pizza place switching to an all carols format in mid-July. It's actually quite nice. The increased cultural sharing brought about by everybody uprooting and walking a mile in another culture's shoes will hasten holidayflation everywhere. But it will buy us another 10 years, I estimate, and it will also bring about world peace. Because in my experience, travel opens the mind. And no one ever went abroad and remained an entitled, ignorant idiot. It's truly magical. No ghosts needed. Although ghosts are welcome if you want them, we're all about inclusivity here. And if I've learned anything from watching The Sixth Sense, it's that, spoiler alert, ghosts just want a little bit of therapy, just like anybody else. It's always time to go in this fast-paced society, but when is it time to be? That's a question you're gonna have to ask for yourself. No one else is interested in you being because that's not something they can sell to advertisers. But you don't actually need advertising. Surprise, it's okay to exist without knowing about all of the products. Targeted advertising seems like something innocuous. It'll help you know about products relevant to you. That's how they spin it. Like they're doing you a favor by examining every micro detail of your life. Remember, if a given product is free to you to use, there's every possibility that you're the product. When kids are thought of as digital natives, are they aware of that? Or is it so true they never see it? How's the water today? What the hell is water? We're swimming in our own commodification. And all it's doing for us is getting us to buy more things. A life without things is hardly a life. I don't think conformity was the intended goal. Everyone wears deodorant and has a phone, so you better too. But it is a happy byproduct. Certain questions, when you ask them, they make you seem like a weirdo. And if it's in somebody's best interest that you don't ask that question because it cuts into their profit, you can easily be spun into a dangerous weirdo because there better be money in it. Why are cars such a given? All the world's a parking lot. And yet you're not a functional grown-up without your own tank? That's absurd. I don't need to waste my limited resources on a rolling fast food wrapper collection machine. I can put my fast food wrappers wherever I like. That's my right as a human. Good men and women died, so I don't have to care. And if I do care, well, then I'm the problem. Shut up and eat your hamburger. But what if I don't eat meat? What if I'm an attention-seeking diva? Actually, there has been a lot of progress on that front. It used to be inconvenient to the point of being ostracized that a person was a vegetarian. I'm making my dietary choices purely for your inconvenience. But enough people had enough reasons that were acceptable that now it's still eye-rolly, but people do ask, expecting, yes, I am a vegetarian, to be a normal enough answer. And the King Cullen even carries oat milk. You need a critical mass because if there's enough of you, you can force a new normal. Of course, it helps if you can rally around a product like Impossible Meat, or however the fuck you pronounce corn. There's no special resonance to any number inherently. But some people have synesthesia. And to them, the number 3, say, tastes like honey. And the number 10, for example, is always filing its taxes late. It's pretty amazing, perception. It shapes our entire internal reality, but everyone's is slightly different. Given their upbringing and cultural influence, and their history of watching too many Newton's Apple educational programs, we're all living in slightly different parallel worlds. Is that a problem? Only if you insist on everyone being the same. Which some do, so problem. The way you get everyone to have the same cultural frame of reference is to either enforce the same culture for all, which we've tried, and that started all this culture war which nobody is winning. Alternatively, we haven't tried raising our newer humans sequestered away from all other humans in their own little fox dens. But then fox culture would reign supreme, but I think they've earned it.
You're gonna be careful. If you don't fall for something, you'll stand for anything. And according to a recent study, standing is killing me.
Scavenger predators that are also cute? Let's give it a try. Of course we're gonna get some pushback from the British because of their weird anti-ginger stance. But we tried letting them dominate the world and look what happened. Everyone speaks English and we can't agree on the borders of anything. So if we're all gonna be foxes, the first thing we need is tall black boots and long black gloves. It's not appropriation. Aesthetic will get you in the mindset of another. If you look in the mirror and you see a fox, you're ready to get out there. That's true in pretty much all situations. Confident people confide in people. That's what all the therapists say. For now, anyway. After the foxification of humanity, they'll just say, or whatever foxes say. I don't know, I'm not a linguist. To make your fox den accept you, you're gonna need to arrive with a charcuterie board, who has just the right amount of meats and cheeses and accessory foods. You can't go wrong with a fig jam. It's sweet next to the salty unctuousness, but it's also a little bit of luxury.
You're fucking with us, aren't you?
A bottle of wine depends on the den. Some are super snobby and knowledgeable about wine and will judge you harshly if you don't get it right. Others are happy for any bottle or just a box. Still, others are a dry den and will be horribly offended. We don't need alcohol to have a good time, and it's sad that you do, Ramon. Oh, I'm sorry. I think I'm just giving you the instructions on how to crash a party. Well, that could work too. One good party will change your life. No interspecies interaction required. The end of the year is a time for lists. Because it's too cold and we're too depressed to write real stories. Unless you live in Australia, then it's hot and you're a maniac. But it's a time to weigh in on funniest fails, fastest destruction to our future, and hottest uncles, or whatever people love to argue about. Arguably, music should bring us together. But then why is the conversation so boring? I know exactly who all these so-called pop stars are, and I don't care about any of them. And yet we drone on and on about some corporation that made a deal with some other corporations to still not pay the artists that has somehow come to dominate our earways. Sorry, I got lost in what I was upset about for a moment. I don't like it that for the entire month of December, that the whole musical conversation becomes dominated by people sharing their list of surveilled consumption habits wrapped up in a cutesy social media slideshow. Do people use slides anymore? Like real deal printout photos and projector setups. There's gotta be some Bushwick enclave where that's the hot new return to authenticity. Is Bushwick still cool? And if it is it like 6 roommates and an indoor skate ramp cool? Or like $6 million apartment cool? And what were the top 10 most listened to songs in Bushwick this year? Sorted by annual income and car ownership. No reason, I'm just working on something. We need validation to know what we were listening to was cool. I know that they told you doing your own thing is cool, but that only works for a select few, born with so much charisma that they make anything cool. Like that one kid in high school who played soccer, formed in the musical, and won the physics trophy. Oh, Zach, you made it look so easy, and everyone liked you. But when I took up the solo tambourine, nobody noticed or cared. But we're social animals, so it's natural that we keep checking in with each other. Am I doing it right? Does this hat make me look the right amount of aloof? No, by the way. Hats are for dummies and baldies. True aloofies know that it's all about the belt. But feedback algorithms make it so the thing that keeps popping up more and more suddenly becomes the only thing that people can talk about. It's not all bad. It's not even nearly all bad. But the information that changes, the novel data that catches our eye, well, I'll say it. Change is bad. We don't want things to change because we don't know how they'll be. Even if we don't like how things are now, they are a known entity. How did we get here, though? That's the midlife crisis of it all. This is not my beautiful house. This is not my beautiful wife. It's an easier narrative if we can just say that this all happened to us. No need to take responsibility for the choices that we've made. That's the other curse of middle age, the intense belief that the youth of today are lacking and that no one knows what personal responsibility is. Well, I'll tell you, the kids today are lacking, but no more so than every kid has ever lacked. They're kids. Their job is all potential, and it's their prerogative not to live up to that. Never live up to your potential, because then what's left? Only potential fulfilled. Let's show you out to pasture, Granddad. Here, take a seat in this meadow, next to this cow. Hope you like grass. But humans can't digest grass. We don't have the stomachs for it. I think what we want is for everyone to get out of our way. And it's easy to discount those who are younger than us by claiming they're inferior. And those older, well, their time is done. And you can hasten this process by watching the wrong news. Both sides think the other side is being brainwashed, but only one side takes delight in cruelty. Ironically, they're the loudest and most wounded when the nerd side tries its hand at playground taunts. Don't do that. You're no good at being mean. But also it plays right into their playbook. I need a playbook, so I can dramatically rip it up and go off script. Look at me, I'm a maverick. Rules are for other people. You're a loose cannon, McLeod. Never mind that a police force full of loose cannons is just firing willy-nilly into the ground. Will he, nil he. Shakespeare came up with that, along with the rest of the English language. He stole all his stories from the Italians, but he single-handedly invented the English language. Does it matter if the art is bad if it's made by humans? Of course it does. This isn't some everyone gets a trophy t-ball game that's been ruining the youth for generations now. What's always wrong with these young? Why can't they be old? I think the problem is, though, the force is asking, why can't things be non-competitive sometimes and just fun? They just get trampled by those that want to win at all costs. It doesn't matter to them that you didn't put up a fight. They still won. The AI and art discourse tends to skip over that there's a large population that wants to make art, not even for a living, but just for the joy of making something for themselves. I bought this trunk at Target, but now it's a one-of-a-kind because I painted the cast of King of the Hill on it. Look, Luann's got her manger babies. I keep my puppets in it. Art doesn't have to be good. It doesn't owe that to you. It just has to be made. That's terrifying if you want to make art and you'd like it to be good. There's always the possibility that you're going to show your soul to the world and they're going to laugh at it. We teach in kindergarten not to do that, but kindergarten's only 1 year. It tends to lose out to all the others. Like t-ball? That's not the most elegant connection, but art. Sometimes it's about trying things, not succeeding. If you're happy with what you've done, then you've done it right. It's an easy enough lesson for children to grasp. But then we spend the rest of childhood beating it out of them. If you can't draw a monkey that doesn't look like a monstrous baby, then you don't deserve to draw at all. That's why that old art school ad had you draw a creepy turtle, to show you no one's good enough to draw. Quit your creating and get to work. We've got the AI to create our art monstrosities now, and they're so off-putting. Maybe it'll cure people of this desire to look at stuff once and for all. Close your eyes and let the sea of winning sweep you away. Are you surfing the waves of success, or are you drowning in it? That tells you all you need to know. And for God's sake, no one try to draw this metaphor. The last thing we need is to picture any of this. Are your eyes still closed? Close your eyes. There's nothing to see here. There's nothing to see anywhere. The AI will be around to harvest your eyes shortly. Do you keep it all? Who knows when it'll be useful? The worst is when you've thrown something out and you need it 6 months later. Keep every slip of paper that the police give you. The less consequential it looks, the more important it might turn out to be. But who makes the decision? Hoarding is the lack of making a decision. Keep it all. That makes things equally impossible to find. It's crazy to need admin to run your own life. There must have been a time when you didn't, not childhood. Like the Renaissance. If you were an important thinker, maybe you needed an amanuensis to help you keep track of your important thoughts. But when in history did we have to start proving who we were and asserting our right to exist in time and space? That should be an ingrained human right. I do exist. So why should that be a problem? What are you gonna do about it, huh? Send me away? That's the humane solution, which is really not all that humane. My life is here. And my stuff. It's pretty disruptive to remove me from it at your behest. It's upsetting enough to move voluntarily. There are never enough boxes, and where do they come from anyway? Where do they all go? The life cycle of a cardboard box is strange and mysterious. The solution, of course, is to have less stuff. And I'd like to, but I'm not allowed to throw out any of this paperwork. And if I have to have all this paperwork, I'm keeping all the books. There has to be a little something for me. It can't all be functional. I am functional, and that's depressing. What are we doing it all for? To not cause problems for some other flunky? Because it's the easiest, most boring thing you could do. Make yourself small, and maybe no one will notice you or bother you. What a terrible goal to make it through life without causing a fuss. I'm not here to make it easy for you. I'm not even here to make it easy for me. Easy is death. Hard is interesting, except for eggs. No one wants their eggs over hard. Except for this one waitress in Chicago who bullied everyone into breakfast choices they didn't want. She just kept saying, "Trust your waitress." You could even hear her saying it to other tables. No one liked what she eventually brought them, but I'll remember her for the rest of my days. The internet's for beginners, and we're all the richer for it. Teach yourself Chinese to a non-useful level, and then by the power vested in me by nobody at all, you have the right to open your own language school. I've been doing yoga for 30 days. Who wants to hear my every thought on it? Verdict? Not enough free weights. It's clearly a boon that all knowledge wants to be free and accessible to all. But this precise implementation means that nobody with any skill or training can make any kind of living by propagating these skills. While an entire army of Johnny-come-latelys can give you the secrets to any trade in a precisely 10-minute video, just sit through this ad for, I don't know, the Global Times? What did they do? It's probably fine. I love the Globe. And we all have time. We have endless time to pick up our newest hobby that will become our whole personality for the next 18 months, only to give it up when it requires real effort. But you don't have to progress with something to keep talking about it. Has anyone seen my sourdough starter? Maybe it finally grew legs and walked away. I'm a real-life Dr. Frankenstein, all thanks to the internet. You think just anybody can do this? Nobody's funny anymore. Refilling pens is like the minimal amount of useful reuse that we can do. Like, is that plastic tube really what's putting us over the edge? It's that massive plastic that's really the problem here. Every little bit helps, but a drop in the bucket is the metaphor we use when the petrochemical industry is flooding the whole world with its product and actively torpedoing any attempts to make changes to the model. We tried nothing and it didn't help. Because the status quo works for a lot of powerful people. I'm not powerful, so I'm not grasping onto the present, resisting any and all change. The problem is we don't listen to people who have anything to say. We're easily distracted by the loudest crazies in the room, who are shouting about who is in what bathroom. Who cares? I'm in here. Don't come in. It's fine. Maybe we should just make the world a series of single-occupancy cubicles, and no one will have to be bothered with anyone else's lifestyle choices. It's a lonely life, but no worse than we deserve. No one's proposed that before, I'll tell you what. And the cubicles can be made of plastic if that's what needs to happen. And then when we die, we can just call it our coffin. Seal the door and change the sign out front to RIP. Launch it into space, I don't care. Launch it into space is a solution we don't use often enough. The sun isn't impossibly far away like those other stars. And yet, only Superman has used it as a garbage disposal system. What would be the harm if we launched thousands of pounds of plastic into the sun? That's how much plastic we have, right? 1,000 pounds? That's more than my cat weighs. I don't have a cat, so don't launch into the sun. But no, right? We're not going to throw off the ecosystem of the sun after we've thrown off the balance of nature here on Earth. Go to Mars, whatever. It can't happen again. That we've stripped the place that we live in of all of its natural resources and made it a much worse place. Better to do it in a place you don't live. But don't you dare stop consuming. It's the only thing we have. And refill your pens. It's good for the Earth. Next thing you're going to tell me all this paper I'm writing on would be better as trees. But I can't write on trees. It's too many splinters. Why aren't we making plastic paper? Probably because nobody but me is writing on paper anymore. Did you turn off the coffee maker? Did it turn itself back on? You should really go home and check. When we get automated appliances, Jetson style, will they have good judgment? Will they be cleaning up our messes ahead of time? Like girders falling into place just in time for Mr. Magoo to safely navigate the construction site? The future is a cartoon. Or will they just be another cat in the herd that we need to corral in this endless farce called life? What is the help that I want versus the help that's being provided? Of course, my problems are mine to solve. But if you're selling me solutions, it'd be nice if they made my life easier or better. Or easier and better. Is that too much to ask? When life gets improved, does it stay improved? The housewives of the 1950s were liberated from their kitchens by automated dishwashers. But I've never actually lived in a house with a dishwasher since I left my childhood home. Is it weird that they haven't become ubiquitous in the 75 years since they've been invented? You could say that water waste kept it from being universally adopted, but studies have shown that modern dishwashers are much more water efficient than washing dishes by hand. The detergent is washing all kinds of chemicals into the water supply, but that's another story. Washing your athleisure clothing in the washing machine is rinsing all kinds of microplastics into the ground as well. Washing anything is a nightmare. We might as well stay dirty. You gotta eat a peck of dirt before you die. My father says that. But how much is a peck? And is that binding? Can I stave off death by eating slightly less than a peck for the rest of my life? Doodaloo, I do. Theaters swear by spritzing costumes with vodka to get out stubborn smells. Is that the best use of our vodka? Supposedly the alcohol smell evaporates as it dries. Or we just go around smelling like drunks. The freakonomics of it all is hard to figure out. Industrialized food saved labor and made food available in communities where it was scarce. But it also poisoned us all and made naturally thin people feel morally superior. Like they did something unquestionably good just by being satisfied before the average person. The written word doesn't change the world. In the moment, that is. It's not a magic spell that you cast. Like thinking makes it so. But if you write it in the right place, it can change the way we thought the world was. Maybe it was right. We're terrible at knowing what is happening. Because maybe nothing is happening. The narrative is always imposed after. The narrative is always an imposition. Tell that to any middle school English class. The purity of uneducated youth. If knowledge corrupts, why don't we shut down all these schools? Let people out into the world with their beautiful and naive selves. That's what the CW's The 100 was about. Children rule and society miraculously becomes peaceful and harmonious. Spend time in a kindergarten and you'll marvel at how quiet everything is. All the sharing and caring of our natural state. In an anarchist society, who will make lenses for glasses without a profit motive? Why, the one who has glasses in their heart. The problem with the internet is everyone is absurd. The bonus of the internet is that it doesn't last. Try to figure out something about 2018. You can't. It's all lost to the digital noise. Have you ever tried to find a tweet that you liked from 13 years ago? You can't, because it's buried in pixelated volume. Look up that It's Not Butter Mantequilla commercial. The propaganda of the 70s is alive and well. That's why Atkins is never going away. Eating a bunch of meat and fat just feels like a good idea, regardless of what the circumstances are. I eat nothing and I recommend nothing, so I can't really say anything either way. It's important to leave no trace. That's no one's philosophy, except the Girl Scouts. But we'd have no way of knowing, would we? Perhaps these no tracers are all around us, quietly living lives without recording it, enjoying bacon, going to kindergarten, looking at trees. Who are these people? And how can we find someone who doesn't want to be found? Write a letter, why don't you? Just tell us you're okay. We mean you no harm. We just want to sell you some bacon. And a timeshare. And do you have any interesting minerals or ores? And can we have them? We very much want them. We here at Western Toilet Industries are so excited to announce our first product offering, ChatGPMe, a generative pre-trained me. That's right. Instead of querying a pattern recognition-based chatbot, all of your questions about physics and love, you could just chat with me. I answer all questions to the best of my abilities. ChatGPMe, can you explain Plessy versus Ferguson? As I recall, it was a landmark court case where something important happened. It set a precedent, and we all learned about it in the 11th grade or something. ChatGPMe, how does the steam engine work? Well, there are pistons, and the force generated by the steam pushes them up, and there's some kind of shaft and wheel rotation, if that's what you need your steam engine to do. If you just need it to look cool, wear the goggles, you're golden. I can answer these questions and more. I've been pre-trained on a data set that includes paying some attention in school, and I've watched a shit ton of movies. ChatGPMe, what is a streetcar named Desire? That's the one with Stella! And Tennessee Williams is gay, I think. I have all the safety guardrails you'd want out of a publicly available chatbot that people are turning to as a modern-day oracle. Go ahead, ask me how to make a dirty bomb. I don't know, that seems like a pretty extreme idea. Is everything okay, dude? Also, I only consume the normal amount of water for a human male my size. Less, if I'm honest. I'm usually a little bit dehydrated. Think of the environmental savings, because nobody else will. I can't do complex math. But neither can ChatGPT, at least not accurately. And I'll tell you when I'm making things up. In a right triangle, the square of the hypotenuse is something of the other two sides. That's an incomplete quote from The Wizard of Oz. The Scarecrow says it in Act 3 to demonstrate that he now has brains. But the true brains are the friends we made along the way. You can take that to the bank. As for Pythagoras, did you know that Pythagoras was the first vegetarian to be really weird about it? Yeah, he and his followers didn't eat meat, and then they'd sit around and do math all day. And at night, they'd go out and shame others for their dietary choices, or something like that. You should go look it up in a primary source. Where are you getting your information from these days? It matters. If you don't have the right tools for the job, is it worth doing anyway? There are those that say no, but they're not always the people that get things done. It's a tricky judgment call to say when it's better to go ahead and use your shoe as a hammer, or when it's time to call a carpenter. I guess it's about how well-resourced you are. Those that have access to resources have a hard time imagining what it's like to not have resources. Must be nice. It's part of the fish out of water plotline in a lot of those movies about charity. You know, all those movies about charity. I can't actually think of a real example, but I know I've seen it. There's always that scene when the plucky supporting actor who's there to make the main character seem like a better person is like, and here, we just make do. Usually she's scooting around a busy triage unit or whatever, while the main character just cluelessly stands in the way. Later, he'll show personal growth by just doing what needs doing. But right now, he's kind of having a tantrum because his scrubs aren't the right color. It's kind of a big problem in the world of nonprofit and charity work, that the people with the money see a problem that they want to solve, but they don't ask the people without the money if that's even help that would be useful to them. You can't make people want your help just because you have good intentions. If your fancy irrigation system has no water source to draw from, you just dumped a bunch of expensive trash in somebody else's field. But we're slow to believe that poor people know anything, even though they're the ones living that life. If they knew anything, wouldn't they be rich? It's pretty patronizing. It's also tried and true. You still get to be the good guy. I tried to give them all this expensive stuff, and you still don't have to pay your fair share of taxes. Yep, that's where this argument is going. Philanthropy is money laundering. Depending on a benevolent dictator doesn't work, and maybe you're not allowed to control every aspect of everything that happens to you. That may be a separate argument, but let a little chaos into your life, and maybe that cute, no-nonsense supporting character in your drama will also fall in love with you after she helps you self-actualize. What movie am I thinking of? Power tools give one the power to build, but they also give one the power to annoy one's neighbors. And that's the greatest love of all. Living next door is where most of us do live. Unless we live totally out in the remote countryside, which at this point in time, statistically, most of us don't. The internet takes us everywhere, but most of it's populated. Even a panda cam is quite crowded with pandas. Do animals get irritated by the noise? We don't know. They can't call 311 to complain. There's a lot 311 can offer, but mostly it's just a sounding board to your troubles. But a block party is not a noise violation, even if you're really hungover. You're supposed to sleep when normal people do and be awake during the noise times. Depending on where you live, the noise times can start pretty early, but that's okay. You can be normal for once and try to make some noise of your own. Run a bandsaw in the living room. Add some binaural beats and you've got a stew on. Package it up as a meditation and sell it with your LUT pack for $24.95. Disrupt your mind and unlock your full potential. It's the thing humanity has been missing all this time, and you found it. You might as well make some kind of profit off from it. Who donates advances to the good of humankind? Jonas Salk is dead, and polio is making a resurgence. Progress. Progresso. Maybe we'll have spaghetti for dinner. If I can find any pasta around here. Just kidding. Pasta is all around. It's a universal constant. Just like dropping your toast jam side down. Gotta get that lint into you somehow, or you're going to be lint-free. And we know what happens then. We know what happens then? I guess there are some mysteries out there to be solved. That's why we need your binaural beats, or your pickled beets. I'm not sure, but I do know we need some kind of beet. It'll make your poop red, but that's pretty exciting. It's a special vegetable indeed that changes your waste product. You are what you eat, and I'm eating asparagus. The magical fruit. Magic is real, and you are a wizard. I believe that. And I believe in you. Now go get that drill and drill 65 holes in the wall at random, especially if you're renting. Your landlord will love it. It lets all the sunshine in, just what your apartment needed. I don't mind you hanging out, talking in your sleep. All the best ones do it. That's when the truth happens. The toads. No, it's on fire. The brain never stops. It's like the shark of the head, moving forward even when you're sleeping, or you'll die. How wasteful. There's no off button. Is that what meditation is? Energy conservation for the brain. It's a trend. It's a fact. It's thousands of years old. It's not that the old ways are better, but when the idea doesn't go away, maybe it's because that idea is inherently useful. Or you're ruminating and you need meditation. Taking care of ourselves is something we instinctively want to outsource, because there's no time. And what's the use? There's no KPI for self-actualization. Or maybe there is. I don't know what a KPI is. It's a terrible way to look at things, but here we are. Are actual sharks happy? A lot of noise was made when we found out rats were driving for fun. There is some connection, I think. between pleasure and skills acquisition. I read that somewhere. The brain hacked its own reward center to deliver itself dopamine when it did something useful, and now we have skyscrapers. Good job, human advancement. Here, have some dopamine. We're attracted to things that make us happy and repelled by things that don't, unless those things make us extremely unhappy, and then we come back around to attraction again, but not in a good way. The hate watch is perverse. You don't even need to think about it. It just is. If you're not into this, just turn it off. Learn to knit, I don't know. But your attention is your world, so stop paying attention to bad things. You're making a bad world for yourself. One piece of advice that I hate: if you feel like you don't have enough time, just give up those video games. It's the avocado toast of the attention economy. Video games are not actually the problem. Why can't I give up laundry or work or showering? But no, now I'm the problem. Well, go fuck yourself. I'm making myself some avocado toast. Avocados didn't explode like some millennial meme out of nowhere, you know. There was a concerted marketing effort to get them into grocery stores and restaurants at the turn of the century. Watch out for big guacamole. They're coming for your Super Bowl party. There's a real shot at greatness if you need less sleep than others. Da Vinci invented Mona Lisa and flying machines because you only needed 4 hours of sleep per night. The fact that those flying machines remain solidly on the ground is besides the point. Actually, those flying machines kind of sound like a Coke binge. Okay, we'll put a guy in the middle, and the pedal and pedal and pedal, and the top that'll go up, and then blammo, the first helicopter. Why isn't it working? Okay, I'll just go write up a diary backwards. Ideas that don't work are as valuable to the human knowledge base as ideas that do. How many bad ideas have you had today? I've had 12. Keep it up. I have an idea for a room made entirely of terry cloth. It's an antechamber to your shower. I guess the shower wouldn't be in the bathroom anymore. Which, then would you even be able to call it the bathroom? You'd have to call it the toilet, like a Brit. Move fast, break things, and cover them in soft fabrics. That's my motto. We're definitely not at perfect yet. There's a lot of room for improvement, that's for sure. But what does ideal living look like? Maximum comfort? But according to the program, a certain amount of struggle is necessary for true optimization. Will we create true comfort for the masses while the creators struggle in a forced state of optimization to keep their minds sharp and hungry? Oh no. Who would envy who in that scenario? And who would supply my adolescent plasma? A third class of genetic spare parts like Gattaca? That's the movie where genetic perfection was achieved by organ farming your twin, right? Or is that idea up for grabs? Don't take that one. It's mine. Honestly, a life where every need is provided for sounds a little boring. And that's why I took the one less carpeted by. And that has made all the difference. They say Robert Frost was a cynic, but does that matter? All poetry sounds schmaltzy, if you read it right. Or wrong, I guess. Whose woods these are? I think I know. His house is in the village, though, because he's dead. Or I'm dead? Someone's dead. Along now is a clock, an idea, a series of bets to help humanity reframe time away from the immediate micro moment and ask us to think about units of time beyond our own lifespan, which is a big ask. And they introduced it at precisely the moment that society was redefining time as the space between like notifications. Speaking of, like this video, please. I'm stuck in stasis until you hit that thumbs up button. Time that unfolds while we're alive is easy for us to access. But the most important stories unfold over decades, lifetimes, millennia. Have you heard that story about designing signage for nuclear waste sites? It's fascinating. How can you communicate a message to a future society when there's no guarantee that we'll share any kind of languages or references, or even the concept of nuclear tragedy? If the worst does happen, we still need to be able to signal, hey, don't plant crops here. It'll kill everyone. Well, in the spirit of questioning all assumptions, we don't need to, but it's the right thing to do if we want any kind of civilization to continue. Or else, what was it all for? Those long days, toiling on our masterworks, eating all those bugs in the jungle for those cameras? Legacy means different things to different people, and living for the people who are here now is an entirely valid choice. Do you think the now anonymous authors of Beowulf would be excited or dismayed by the number of college freshmen who've been tortured by their work? Work means to be in conversation with the time it's in, to entertain the author's friends and family, that it sometimes takes on an extra significance, as an example of how things were, in a historically valuable sense. Well, that's just a bonus. Sometimes we give writers and artists the designation of before their time, because they see something coming that'll take the rest of us decades to notice. But in some cases, that's just as good as obscurity. Who's going to preserve this work that nobody wants now until somebody does want it? Who's going to dig through our past to find an overlooked gem? Especially as people are just publishing more and more every day. There, I've said it. Now, who has answers? There's a vast legacy of experimentation in human history, and that's how we've gotten where we are. Frankenstein's monster wasn't a raving success. A failure is a result. But what are we doing with all this data? Seems to me that we're ignoring it with the hopes that someone smarter will come along and know what to do with it. Stop waiting for someone smarter. You're the smartest person you are. The answer is here, among the alphabets. You'll just have to make your own murder board, and then you'll see. Forgive the violence of my language. I didn't name it, but I said it, and I stand by it. No home is complete without a corkboard and some pushpins. Mine sits under a window in my home gym/home office. I never did figure out how to hang anything on the wall, but that's on me. I own that. I also own an old whiteboard. The whiteboard comes with its own stand, so it's less of a problem. The issue there is ghosting, but we're having a seance later, so that should work itself out. When people started to write stuff down, I'm sure there were curmudgeons who decried the loss of the skill of memorization. The kids aren't building memory palaces like they used to, and all the bards lost work to a stack of paper. So they pivoted to become actors, and society has never recovered. So you can see my concern. On the other hand, no one is bemoaning glasses. They just so clearly work. It's not like eyes need mental toughness. We accept that, and we just laugh about 4 eyes behind her back. She'll never get a date for the prom until she learns to accept being semi-blind. And then, ironically, she's gorgeous. Kiss me under the milky twilight. But forgive me if I don't want to be a guinea pig for a massive reordering of the human mind. It's a cop-out to say it, but if we paid people what they're worth, compensated people for the work we stole, tested for all the safety contingencies, we wouldn't be able to afford to make it. Our failures of optimization. You could argue that if we left them behind, maybe they weren't serving us. But that presupposes that we're not broken and wrong. And if only we gamified our habit creation, we'd do all the things and get enough exercise. But you do realize that using an RPG-themed habit tracker isn't the same as playing an actual RPG, right? You're no fool. You want your RPG. Why aren't we better? It's not bad to strive, right? It's not bad to have goals, but are they my goals? Or is someone else planting and then exploiting that insecurity to sell me colloidal mercury so that even when I'm peeing, I'm optimizing? Goods can make changes to our whole society. Deodorant is purely a need invented by deodorant people. But can you imagine living without it? Occasionally people do. And if they mention it, we categorize them as a dirty hippie. Phones are worming their way into our pockets as a must-have. Are worming? Have wormed. Even kids have phones these days for emergencies. But have you ever thought about if you need a phone, who are you going to call? Ghostbusters? They're not real. The answer could be yes, by the way. No judgment here. But did you decide you need a phone, or did Boost Mobile? What does talking to people get anyone anyway? Except the exchange of ideas and the feeling of community and camaraderie. And 24/7 access to a curated feed of our best frenemies' best lives that make us feel awful about ourselves. I better get those supplements so I can drink more water and reach my true potential and finally emerge from this aging chrysalis to show the world my true form. What if my true form is like a Final Fantasy final boss with wings and extra legs and the ability to cast Meteor? That spell is devastating. Humanity would never survive. It's up to me then, and you, to keep it contained and stop buying self-improvement products being hawked by a disgruntled man from his basement. If having a compost toilet fixes everything, what's he so mad about? As we all know, the physical constants, being what they are what enabled life to develop in this neck of the universal woods. But are they mess withable after the fact? They can't all be existential threats, but it does kind of seem like this one would be. The way I see it going down is at first anti-gravity is a novelty that you pay to experience as a luxury outing, but then some asshole company would claim it as their own resource. And then we'd all have a gravity bill to pay every month under threat of having all your stuff fly off into the heavens for non-payment. The predictable people would grumble about equity and leaving people out, and the people in power would ignore them like they always do, and talk a big game about innovation moving the country forward. Which country? Does it matter? So basically, your whole life will be held under friendly ransom by the gravity companies, and eventually we'd all get used to it. And people would accept it as the way we've always done things, until a band of radicals comes along and does some kind of direct action, putting the localized gravity generators at risk. Some will hail them as folk heroes, but the mainstream opinion will be that they're criminals for expecting the natural world to be free for all to experience. And how dare they want things to be different? Won't someone think of the prophets? Never mind that studies will show people are long-term more productive for society when they have stable access to free-flowing gravity and other universal concepts. Because watch out, Planck's constant. They're coming for you next. But those are just normal people. They don't have any shareholders, so no one argues their side. Is this the specter of what will be or what might be? It's hard to say. Calvinism would say your destiny is preordained, and nothing that you'll do in the present moment will change what's supposed to happen. But Bill Watterson retired. He doesn't get to drive the conversation any longer. Slap that sticker of Calvin peeing on your truck window and accept the fact that only you can prevent the future. Meditation is so old. So like, how early did humans look around and were like, whoa, 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 this is too much. I need a brain break. The natural state of our brains is distraction, and then inventing more ways to distract. Hey, look over there. It's not a bird or a plane, but it's who we are, so it's fine. The natural state of humans is tucked into a fluffy bed listening to a podcast. What an interesting story and/or piece of knowledge that you just shared. I'm a better person because I'm listening, just like Fraser Crane. I'm listening. I am not a licensed therapist though, so don't tell me anything too big, unless it's really juicy. I do want to hear the hot goss. I'll meditate later. We've got two impulses at war to find balance. I'm gonna eat 15 hot dogs, but then I'm gonna drink lemon and cayenne pepper for 2 weeks. So I should be right as rain. It's all offsets with you humans. Let's not stop taking planes. Let's instead plant trees that'll mature in 15 to 20 years. My flight's today, by the way. Also, the door might fall off, but there's nothing to change just as long as I pray about it later. Even Steven on the cosmic scales. I'm not judging bad behavior. Lord knows I don't judge. And if I do, I'll put some money in the swear jar. If you want to be a hedonist, be a hedonist. They throw the best parties. I don't really enjoy parties, but I hear some people do. Grape lovers mostly. I'm not such a fan of grapes. We like different things, and that should be okay. But for maximum growth, we all need to like and buy the same thing. What will Netflix do when it reaches full saturation in India? Is that why the tech guys are so keen to get to Mars? To seek out new markets and new civilizations. To go boldly into that good night. With good grammar and a nose for profit. I can never smell money when it's happening. I record it to watch it later, so I always miss it. That's okay though. I just print my own. Will your photocopier copy your money? Would anyone really be fooled by that? Is that how counterfeiters are getting away with it? How early on did we realize that we need counterfeit protections? Probably immediately after the invention of currency, right? People saw there was a way to get stuff without bringing Milky White to market. Ah, well, let's back up now. Were there ever counterfeit cows? Are we gonna talk about time again? It's a lot of words for a concept that may or may not exist. 20 days seems like a long time, but it feels like forever. Can you bear a thing for 6 months? Even 1 month is too long to do something you don't want to do. That's why you have to find something enjoyable about it. Then life. There you have it. 60 days does seem like a lot. So where's the changeover? Which grain of sand is the tipping point? When is the man bald? Balding is an ancient paradox. Because even back when they had nothing, they still had that to work with, and we still have it today. Human existence is the continuity. Even if we can't relate to a joke about a dog going into a bar in ancient Sumerian. We don't have tech that'll record things forever. In fact, our newest technology decays the fastest. To preserve knowledge, it needs to be in active use. If all the hard drives fail at Columbia Records, all the music from the 90s is lost, unless people remember how to sing it. For more recent history, like the shit people wrote on the internet today, it's in even more peril. If the server goes down, or if the people running the servers think that hosting your thoughts is no longer profitable, your thoughts will no longer be available to us. Information wants to be free. That was the promise of the internet. Digital isn't really free, and it isn't really an escape from the physical. This is today's argument why simulation theory is improbable. If they've done it once, they've done it a million times, but they've also turned it off a million times. If you turn off all the notifications on your phone, you'll find it a lot less distracting. Of course, you missed all of your messages, but who wants to hear from people anyway? If you really need me, send me a letter. Care of the Woods. I don't want to live in the woods. Bears live in the woods. But they've agreed to collect my mail for me, so that's a good deal. We really should be making more deals with the bears. They're lovely people, and they're just smart enough to blunder their way into our kitchens. Hope you didn't eat all that honey. When preparing an offering for a bear, consider what you want from them. An act of revenge? That's going to require meat, and lots of it. But if you just need them to pick up your dry cleaning, a small snack will do. They really like Drake's cakes. It reminds them of hanging out in the cafeteria in high school. Sure, they weren't popular, but they were well liked, and they had good friends. High school shouldn't be the best time of your life. You've barely even started, pardon the pun. Those who peaked in high school are doomed to become gym teachers. Not that there's anything wrong with being a gym teacher, if any of you are watching. No gym teachers are watching this channel. If you are, you're lying to yourself. Get a new job.
Okay.
The best life advice comes from a stranger saying arbitrary things to you. That pretty much is what tarot is, from what I understand. And as you see, none of this requires phone notifications. Random chance. That's what governs the most exciting of lives. If it's really important, you'll stumble upon a message in a bottle with that information inside. Never mind that you don't live by the ocean. You could run into Sting anywhere. That's one of his superpowers. Not every famous person has superpowers, just the almighty and truly famous. You can tell who they are because their other bandmates will eventually stop talking to them. Be difficult, become a penguin with a machete. That's the mark of true self-actualization. They want you to be easy. And then they can put you on a shelf and ignore you while they wrangle the problem child. Of course, some of us do our best work while being ignored. So do not hit like and subscribe. Don't tell your friends. And definitely don't start a Discord where you spread the word of gentle chaos. Ignore genius. Too incoherent for his time. Rambling idiot. This is the man that I hope to be. Go out and perplex someone else today. Call it art. It's annoying that the end of the year is a time for everyone to give up. Oh, sorry, celebrate the holidays. You can't get anything done because of holiday parties, cold mornings, flu spreadings, and all the celebrities are on vacation. Just kidding. I think it's good. We should have more times of the year when nothing's expected of us. It's too cold out there, so let's just not. Nature wins, what can I do about it? You can be placed in an impossible situation. We're still not there yet, where every obstacle has been eliminated. If you have the means to remove yourself from winter, then by all means do it. The southern resorts need your tourist dollars. It's a whole thing to go on vacation. You keep whole economies turning with your leisure time. But what if it was all leisure time? And what if you didn't have to wait until you were 65 to enjoy it? If you think I'm building to a pitch of an exciting new business opportunity, you're sorely mistaken. I don't have any financial secrets to share. Nobody does. I'm just honest about it. Sure, crypto speculation could make you rich, but more likely, the house always wins. Your vice is very profitable. They all are, I guess. So are your virtues. Wellness crap is expensive. So it's a win-win. For other people, I gotta get in the supplement game. Whatever happened to Lloyd Dobler? Did he ever sell stuff that was bought or buy stuff that was sold? People aren't even named Lloyd anymore. It's too many L's. In the future of the alphabet, Lloyd will be spelled L-O-I-D. So will others. Will it get confusing? I don't care. little confusion in your life would be good for you. Help you to keep from going soft. It's a great big world out there and everybody has names. You don't have to like them all. Lord knows they're not gonna like you. And we can all share an ice cream and laugh about it. Those of us who aren't lactose intolerant, that is. Those that are inessential to the peace process, so that's okay. All wars are fought on the cheese field, which makes the lactose intolerant among us naturally people of peace. So it is written. You can look it up, or ask your friend Jason. That's why he's always farting. Where do the ideas go when you forget them? I've never been there, have you? Is it just a desolate wasteland full of orphan concepts? So sad and lonely? Or are they happy there? Have they built a community of their own, far away from the leaky minds that conceived and abandoned them? Do ideas need us? Probably. Or what's the point? What's the big idea, eh? No, really. Can anyone tell me? I thought I had it, but it slipped from my grasp. Are ideas trying to get away from us? Those slipsy boogers. Using my brain to get into this world, only to slip off onto their own adventures? I'm an unwilling interdimensional conduit to the greatest ideas that humanity has never seen. It's a tragedy as old as synapses. And synapses are pretty old. I think, therefore I am. I think not, therefore I am not. I am not, therefore I don't think. I am, therefore I think. Some of that's something, right? You have to check with others every so often to make sure you're not imagining things. A trusted confidant can keep you tethered to reality. Can I trust you? An untrusted confidant can launch you into the imaginosphere, like a Walter Disney creation where an atomic concept is voiced by an award-winning actress to explain quantum physics to 12-year-olds. And that 12-year-old was Sarah Jessica Parker, who went on to ignore physics to pursue her true love, pretending to be a writer. Pretending to be a writer is more fun than actually being a writer. It's the ideas, you see. They just won't line up right, like a bunch of cats in an Easter parade. We don't say, like herding cats. We were instructed to say that cats are like herding ideas. They're really strict about it. Who are they? They never say. It's not ominous, though. If you choose to ignore the uncertainty, you're fine. We're all fine. You have to keep trying is the thing. Because sometimes it does all line up, like beautiful order emerging unannounced from the chaos, just for a moment. And you've got a glorious cat parade, and then get out of there. Those cats are going to be even more disorderly when they come out of it, to make up for lost time. That's Newton's fifth rule of acquisition. Disorder is a constant, and must be satisfied, or the dark times will come. We leave things on all the time now, without even thinking about it. Power consumption? Not my problem. Electric bill? I'll pay it. But it is a lot not to have to sit through a power-up screen. We're busy people. I've got TikToks to scroll. We'll sit and stare at the screen for hours at nothing. We don't have the patience to sit through the Apple logo blinking on and off, or whatever happens. Which, considering, have you tried turning it off and on again? Is the only tech solution there is. I should know better what that looks like. The long boot used to be a problem that computer designers wanted to solve. I guess they solved it by saying, just don't turn it off. And it is shorter than it used to be. Except at work. Am I right? At work, everything's worse. And it's just the facts. If it was fun, they would just call it fun. Do you know what I do for fun? Press buttons in a browser window to make numbers go up. It's a game, and it's super addictive. And it reminds me that most of life is filling it full of boring shit while we wait to die. At least card games have some kind of socialization built in. It's all just Skinner boxes, isn't it? Someone should make a project and call it that. Maybe they already have. It sounds like a parody SNL commercial if SNL was more nerdy and less fun. Joking about death? Some would say that's all we're joking about, all the time. But it takes a deft hand to not just bum everybody out. It's just easier to distract. Buttons, though, so satisfying to push. We need to feel like we're achieving something, but it's only the feeling that we need. The achievement itself doesn't have to be real. Our perception is king, and why not? I don't know you or your reality, but I'm intimately familiar with mine. Too bad I'm also sick of it. Hence Skinner Box. It's a new toy from Mattel that the whole family will love. Comes in 2 colors, Cheese Reward and the Living Dangerously. Avoid the Shocks edition. We have such faith in punishment, even though positive rewards are shown to create better results and changing behavior long term. But if we're not hanging out long term, it's easier to make you fear me to do what I want. Is that the idea? I don't know. I exist inside your screen, never interacting with anything, really. We need to be coordinated to get things done. The Earth is the biggest clock of them all, but some of us have internal clocks that are different. That woman who lived in the caves in Italy, her internal clock, it was all wrong. It's a necessary thing to see what would happen, but the conditions she lived in were completely artificial. There's no way that we humans need to live without the movement of the sun, unless something catastrophic happens, or space travel changes our relationship to the sun. Anyway, so it's good we know, but knowing, we pay no heed. We know that staring into a screen for hours at a time is no good for us, but we do it anyway, especially before bed. We don't have to accept nature as it is. Clothing, for example, is much more comfortable than being naked and exposed to the elements. Blankets might be the best thing ever invented, especially in the autumn. But somehow blankets aren't nearly as disruptive to our lives as our new pocket square. But of course, no one intentionally designed blankets to be as addictive as possible, dumping light into our eyes and triggering our amygdala with notifications and fear and the desire to be liked. You can turn off all the notifications for all of the apps that you have. But then you won't get up-to-the-minute information on every bit of information that your phone's apps track. But that much information isn't useful. My mailroom app pings me every time a package I order makes any move. Arrival at the dispatch center in Shenzhen. Ping! On the van. Ping! Stuck in traffic. Ping! But there are only 2 pieces of information that I need with any urgency. I've ordered it, and it's here. If something goes wrong, it's nice to be able to troubleshoot, but I don't need the constant dispatches. Even if I ran a shipping company, I wouldn't need to be interrupted all day with that kind of detail. I'd delegate those responsibilities, at the very least. If I had a PA that interrupted me that much, I'd tell him to cool it. Use your judgment. I guess that's what the AI is trying to do. But I can't fire the AI if it doesn't do the job to my liking. Remember how many assistants Murphy Brown went through? Would AI have solved her problems? Or would she just have a hole in her life because there were no more subordinates to terrorize? Math. Did we discover it or did we invent it? Not me. I mean, I didn't do anything. But I reap the rewards daily. Just like living on this round earth means I can take an airplane around the world and enjoy day or night. The existence of math means I can enjoy mathematical things, like replicable recipes with a consistent amount of ingredients and an iPad that can do all of its iPad-y things. Did anyone actually buy an Apple Vision? Are wearables a thing that we actually want? Or does it just look cool in a comic book? Some people are actually excited about merging with machines, and they write very loud books about it. But I'm not convinced the people are actually clamoring for a Jarvis. Maybe it's an American thing, but I know several people who get squicked out by the idea of other people doing their laundry. Although, we're pretty quick to give over our personal facts to anyone who asks. Online, anyway. Maybe it's because we don't wear our facts. It's just who we are. It's no big deal. I resent when Siri wants to guess what app I want to open based on my time and location. You don't know me. Also, she set reading goals for me, which I think is rather presumptuous. It makes me worried she's going to do something rash when she finds out that I still read paper books, whose pages she can't count. But anyway, that's all annoying enough on a tablet. I don't want to optimize nag floating in the corner of my eye. Maybe you do. I don't know you, but I'd really like to be left alone. The tone technology is striking, is more a hectoring authority figure than personal assistant. I'm not some monster who refuses to say thank you to Siri, but I'm not fooling myself that that female voice represents anything but 5,000 lines of code. I just resent the intrusion. I'm certainly not going to wear it on my face. Anyone who's had to wear glasses for vision correction might hotter without them. I guess there's the revenge of the nerds fantasy of reclaiming the glasses as a $5,000 pair of must-have item. You all laughed and all that. Why is it that knowing more has made the world worse? And is the world worse? Our current most popular mode of communication is social media communication. These modes don't encourage listening or understanding. They encourage only reacting. Interaction is prized, but there's no real way to indicate listening. The heart, the thumbs up, the likes, these are literally reactions. You don't need to have heard or digested anything to press those buttons.
Like and subscribe.
It's a reflex to say and a reflex to do. But subscribing isn't communication between people. It's a way you get magazines. Remember magazines? I am not a magazine. I think about the stories I want to tell, but I don't have to. No gatekeepers is a thing that works both ways. No one is silenced, but there's no concurrent responsibility to be truthful or interesting. Just shocking. As you sell me a tea that'll make me shit myself thinner. You move the bodies, but you didn't move the graves. Anyway, we're free to do what we want any old time. And pointing out that's what babies desire, that's anti-free speech, so I won't do that. But is just saying any old thing that we were provoked into feeling in the moment really the thing that we want? In an argument with a friend, in the heat of the moment, it's easy to say things you regret. So I hear. I never say things to friends, so I don't know. But I didn't mean it. I was just angry. That's a thing that happens person to person. But once you've shouted something into the void that is the internet, there's no takebacks, only 1,000 talkbacks, and a notes apology that doesn't mean anything. Publishing a thing gives it real weight, and not every thought can support the weight. The stupid quip that you mutter to a friend at a bar, that's just banter. But write it in the comments, and now you've published a commentary. So it's our fault. We believe everything we read, and we shouldn't. But you can't go around believing nothing, can you? It's okay to leave your trumpet on the bus. A kind stranger will call you and make sure you get it back. This is the rule of trumpets. It doesn't work with other instruments though. Believe me, I've tried. You don't have to believe me.
You don't have to believe anyone. That's your joyful right as a human. In fact, we're the only animal that doubts. So you might say it's your duty. If you wish humanity to remain separate from the other animals, those naive, trusting fools, doubt is powerful because it lets us live with the idea of a counterfactual. And that's important because what if it wasn't?
That's always an important question to consider, no matter how much your coworkers consider the matter settled and just want to end this meeting to go to lunch. But have you considered, Ruben, what if it wasn't? That's right, sit back down. I can do this all day.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just like whatever. I've been a nihilist since Lebowski. Like, these Johnny-come-latelys that don't know what it's like to believe in nothing.
In fact, try it. Spend today responding to all queries. But what if it wasn't? Have a nice day. But what if it wasn't? Would you like fries with that? But what if it wasn't? I think you're going to be in for an interesting time. But then again, what if it wasn't? It's good to take a thought experiment out into the real world for a spin from time to time. Keeps it fresh and stretches out the hip flexors. Ideas have hip flexors too. And if you think a sedentary lifestyle is killing us, oh boy, you should watch an idea try to run a mile. Presidential fitness test indeed. Maybe that's what will fix all the schools. Presidential fitness test of the mind. But what would a V sit and reach look like for an idea? And of course we have to consider, but what if it wasn't? Should it be a Q sit and reach instead? Where you reach for a box of Q-tips but resist sticking them in your ear, especially if you just had a shower. Let that water sit and just think about what you've done.
There's no reason that means that.
I've never seen a comment section more polarized than when someone asked the audio engineering subreddit, how do you keep your ears clean? Wars were fought and lost over whether it's a good idea to stick a small wooden stick in your ear canal next to your brain. And I hope to invite that energy here today. The real answer, as we all know, is you probably should, but you will. But of course, what if you didn't? We're part of a complex system and the pieces are too numerous to keep track of. Get comfortable with ambiguity and you'll master the self. But empowering a super intelligent process to make its own choices that we don't understand, that's a dangerous game. We know what motivates a predator mammal. Dinner. It might even be us. But we know that and we can plan accordingly. Solving problems beyond our current acumen? Well, that's the goal. But that's also the journey. A perfect society. Is that what the people of Wall-E thought that they had? No one forced them to get in those chairs. Humanity has designed some spectacular chairs. Although, name a designer beyond Eames. Mr. Lazyboy doesn't count. There is no such boy. It's wonderful to be comfortable. Where are you sitting right now? Is it nice? Would you stay there forever if you didn't have to go to work tomorrow? I wouldn't. As much as I love comfort, I have the drive to get out of my comfort zone. so to speak. That's where the magic actually happens. No magic happens in satisfaction. Why don't they teach AI to wash dishes? That's already become a cliche in certain circles, but they haven't answered it. I think that's because it's really hard. Programming an automated digital being to successfully interact with the physical world is really hard. They just don't have the dexterity to not break all the dishes. Like a willfully incompetent husband, you're just better at it, honey. And do you really want one of those automated auto plant arms in your kitchen? Easier to just 3D print new dishes as the need arises. So why aren't they working on that, huh? Why is 3D printing only for untrackable firearms and experimental pastas? Maybe an artificially intelligent thinking machine can answer that one. Would we accept it if an AI gave us answers about who we are? I don't want that. I don't like it when other humans try to label me. Don't put me in a box. I'm a non-conformist, but I'll do the thing that everybody else is doing. I'm unpredictable. I'm crazy like that. Look at this lampshade. It's on my head like an alcoholic in a slapstick movie presentation. Could an AI do that? They don't even have a head or a lamp. We're not going to give AI-powered entities the power of ownership, right? Profundity is all around on our tea bags and Snapple caps. It's the universe's way of telling us to buy more stuff. How do you acquire wisdom without, acquiring? And who put that C in acquiring? These are the mysteries that only a yogi tea can provide answers to.
Stare into the void.
And the void stares back, and then sells your location data to a shady broker. They can put together the story of your life by the number of Starbucks you've walked past. There are singles in your area, but don't pick them up. A dollar bill on the sidewalk is always a trap. Or a prank show.
Who glued all these freaking quarters to the floor? I don't have to explain my art to you, Warren.
The movies that shaped us don't have to be good. They just need to have spoken to us at a time when we needed to hear it. And the last gasp of record stores is what I needed to hear over and over in the 90s. Mortality and all that. Don't worry. We're not getting into all that today. It's getting into you, though. But a thing can just be. We don't have to dwell, like a box of oranges that you're racing to finish before the mold comes. Because once the mold gets won, okay, I lied. We are getting into it.
What's on the internet today? What's on the internet today? What's on the internet today?
But mold comes for us all. Some of it makes antibiotics, a modern medical miracle that we've overused to the point of making them precariously useless. Nothing is sadder than antibiotic resistance. Nothing. So tell your Aunt Hilda to send that copy of Charlotte's Web back to the library. Some pig indeed. Let's pump them full of antibiotics and eat them, and then shut up about it. Where is the threshold for intelligence that we don't want to eat? We're drawing the line at different places from each other, and that's weird. Not all vegetarians do it because they care, but the ones who do care, they're horrified. Listen to a horrified vegetarian today. But what do we do when what we know about plant communication systems becomes popular knowledge? Look up the communicative properties of forests. It's fascinating. Don't even get me started on mushroom networks. We don't have the time. But then I guess we're going to have to start eating each other. And I, for one, am delicious. Is there a point at which we think it should be complete? Everybody wants to be done. But done with what? Life? I think there's so much obligation to the boss, but when is it my time? Tomorrow? Famously, tomorrow never comes. We have all these labels for concepts that make them seem attainable. If time is a dimension, is not time travel possible? What a disaster that would be. Our world only works because we keep our mess contained to the present moment. Maybe it's an extension of that principle, where no two atoms can occupy the same space at once. They also can't occupy the same time at once. No two atoms are up to any good. That's a lesser known principle, but it's why you only ever have one friend named Adam at a time. But you have 60 friends named Matt. There are unlimited Matts. But don't even get me started on the Daves I know. Is time blindness real? Or is time unreal? And those with so-called time blindness are the only ones that know, but they don't even know when it's time to make the donuts. So we're better off if that's not the case. Take a poll. Find out who in your life likes donuts. I bet the answer is different than you think. If you lose, you have to send me a donut. I do like donuts. Or I don't. You wouldn't know until you open that box and observe me digging in. It should go without saying. Don't put a cat in that box, dead or otherwise. I don't like cats. The world is less straightforward than it seems, I'm saying. But our own day-to-day observations are pretty come as you are. It's how babies can pick up classical physics by instinct and learn to push every Cheerio onto the floor. Those little Newtons. We don't have a lot of cause to interact globally on a submolecular scale. So that's where all the good stuff is hidden. But don't keep secrets. Secrets are no fun. But physics is for everyone. Something that's holding back the resurgence of analog computing is that no one wants to do calculus anymore. And why would they? Can't the machines do it by now? What happens if we entrust all of our knowledge to the machines and forget it ourselves? Time crimes. That's what. People will start messing around in the time-space continuum because they will have forgotten that it's impossible. And then, where will we be? Or when will we be? If you give a mouse a cookie, he's sure to want some milk. Some systems are unstoppable once you get the machine going, and the machine can only operate by rules. It can't have compassion or make judgment calls. A system that treats everyone the same isn't fair. It's a meat grinder. There's a document floating around the internet, 50 assumptions about names or something like that, that's full of mistakes that programmers make, setting rules for name fields in online forms. Like, a surname is only one word, or a name has to have more than one letter, or a name should be letters. All of these rules are quite commonly broken in cultures that aren't American English. And this leaves out large swaths of people. Well, why can't everyone rename themselves according to my standards? It's indulgent to be different. It is indulgent to be different. But isn't that why we have the Google ability problem? Are you the only one of your name when you Google? Are you the most famous one? Who's your name doppelganger? Are you doing better than them? I have a tall cousin, and I was curious, how tall? So instead of asking him, I Googled it. What the hell? And I found an answer that I'm pretty sure is accurate. Google knows how tall your tall cousin is. Not sure what to do with that information, but it is creepy. Also, call your cousin. He misses you. It's easier than ever to keep in touch these days. And if you sign up for my connection plan, you'll receive this beautiful cross-stitch of a baby saying its first words while you're away on a business trip. Have you ever considered working less, you piece of shit? Your family needs you. Pivotal moments are happening without you. The cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon. If you sign up as a premium member, you'll also receive this silver spoon.
I'm really excited to join this account, but I'm not sure where to send my life savings.
Sign up today, but not if your name contains the letter E. Our system isn't set up to handle that, because we're based on code gleaned from French modernists. And you know what they're like, those word-playing bastards? It's a very irritating place to work. I'd get a job anywhere else if I could, but I have no other skills.
We live in a world governed by tens.
But why? If we were born Simpson-like with 4 fingers on each hand, would base 8 be our governing principle? There's nothing inherently natural about tens. In fact, we're surrounded by systems that take a different number as their basis. Binary and hexadecimal, for example, allow us to talk to computers. In fact, binary seems like the most obvious of them all. How much more simple can you get than on or off? And despite its simplicity in design, you can still use it to express incredible amounts of complexity. But saying that I just celebrated my 1001011101010 birthday sounds like less of a milestone than it's been 2,000 days since my last cigarette. We like time in evenly divisible chunks. Even if they're arbitrary, 2 weeks is at least related to the movement of the sun and the earth, but 10 business days seems neater. Even if work, weekends, and turnaround time are all relatively recent human inventions, prime numbers are only for keeping secrets. It's either a party trick or a cryptography system that you know the bigger ones. Guys, we made up numbers and then we couldn't figure out everything about them. P or NP? Nobody knows. Are we just playing an elaborate game with ourselves? Are we cheating entropy by imposing a narrative on all of this chaos? Europe makes fun of America for our resistance to the metric system. But the royal kilogram is just some king's idea for how much a liter of water weighed or some shit. And a liter is just the volume of atoms it takes to definitively kill a cat in a box. In case I seem like some guy who didn't get you a birthday present, because a year is just a somewhat inaccurate measurement of how long it takes the earth to go around the sun. I am. Why would I get you a present? Here, take some cash. Get something you like for once. Get 10 of them. Get 2,000 of them. I don't care, just don't get 8. It's significant that we have 10 fingers because we do. If we had 6, that'd be significant too. If spiders ruled the world, well, we'd be in trouble. But we wouldn't, because there's only a small proportion of them that are poisonous, and most of them don't go after humans. And they also eat small bugs and other things that are annoying. Some of them even eat small rodents. What if we found out the dolphins really were in charge all along? What do they have 10 of? Shoes are there for our comfort, but also our discomfort. Our little feetball meatballs can get so delicate when we protect them from the rocks and sticks and Legos on the ground. But we also have a better chance of avoiding overall disease and grossness if you keep them covered and protected. If you watch that Frontier guy on YouTube, or maybe there's more than one, isn't that a niche? You can see him hand make some primitive shoes, similar to ones ancient people might have worn. The first Payless had one style. It was one size fits all, and basically wrapping your feet up like little presents to open up later. Surprise, it's unabraded feet. Oh, you shouldn't have. Athlete's foot is one of the few fungi that currently affects humans. But there's one thing The Last of Us got right, which is global warming could cause human immune systems to be far more susceptible to fungal diseases. And we are not prepared. It probably won't make us have a touching single episode arc of an entire love story between a gruff survivalist and his music teacher husband. But you don't know the future. Anything's possible. We're always trying to get back to the garden, but in absurd, newfangled ways. Who among us has those toesy shoeses? Someone must. They're hot sellers and terrible looking. Are they actually comfortable? Looking at them makes me unable to think of anything but toes, which I find unpleasant. Has anyone done studies on the psychological effect of unattractive footwear? I think that's the next frontier. Because who cares about performance? For most of us, the thing you need most to be a better exerciser is just go to sleep on time instead of playing on your phone all night. I know what you do.
It's all about those macros. It's all about those calories in, calories out. I don't know what that joker's talking about, but he is right though. You gotta get good sleep.
Foot massage is a glorious thing. If you can get over somebody touching your feet, and you should, it's worth it. But sandals and socks, not worth it. Just wear shoes. No one wants to think about your toes. How many times do I need to say it? I'm pretty sure this is not just my problem. But even if it is, accommodate me. Chop off your toes and throw them in the yard. If I'm right about this, and I think that I am, in 3 years you'll have a full-grown producing foot tree. So you don't have to be so precious with your originals. And you'll finally be able to fit those clodhoppers into that shoe. And the prince will be convinced that it's you that he wants to marry. All of your problems will be solved by marrying royalty. Hello! Just ask Meghan Markle. Watch out for people who want to change your habits. The only one with the agenda of considering your needs is you. Decide. Take action. Or decide not to take action. Watching TV all day is a perfectly cromulent choice. English is a great language because it's so mutable. Say a word enough and it's real. Take a word, make it mean something else, also real. Although you may face more challenge in that regard, there are still people railing against the split infinitive for God's sake. This isn't Latin. Nothing is these days. Language is for expressing yourself, and what doesn't serve you, you should leave behind. We focus far too much on rules, so much so that some people believe that rules are the point, and some of those people are teachers, so the system perpetuates. But what do you get out of being rigid about language? A bunch of essays that are so tediously the same that you get what you deserve. If your students are boring, well, that's on you. Never be boring. That's my only rule. And I break it all the time. Should I go out tonight? I got TV. TV isn't boring if you're the one who's watching. It's stimulating, it's exciting, and my brain is dazzled by all the flashing lights. In the future, someone will figure out how to mesmerize people with just a strobe. And the youth will sit entranced, and the adults will sit and complain. Back in my day, we had real entertainment. TikToks by the hundreds of thousands. Actual storytelling, not this drivel. We've been fearing for the illiteracy of the next generation since the cuneiform tablet. And we were right. Who could read cuneiform anymore? It's a shame and a loss that culture is a living thing. We keep inventing more of it and discarding the old. But I don't want to be discarded. That's right. You've read my implications correctly. Skibbity toilet is our own mortality looking us in the face and flushing it down. But does anybody want to be an 8-year-old again? I didn't want to be an 8-year-old the first time around. I was born a middle-aged man, and I'll die a middle-aged man. That's not a threat, by the way. I'm ageless, not suicidal. My secret? Blood transfusions from kindergartners. Silicon Valley was right. Silicon Valley is always right. Somebody should give Mike Judge another show, because I'm running out of TV to watch. Some of it's quite bad, you know. Dead drops. They get me every time. What gets you might be different. Start your own channel and tell the world there's a song in your heart. Let it out. Most creative people think everyone's creative. We just get drained out of it in adolescence. That wonderful time when we traverse the corridor between childhood and adulthood and want to rip off everyone's head in the process. Stop looking at me. I'm so ugly. Also, Becky said she saw you picking a wedgie in third period. How dare you have a butt? Come here, I'll punch you. There's a theory that babies cry all the time because growing hurts. We have a strange bias that nature is the ultimate state, and everything else is a departure from our perfect Eden. Where'd you get that apple, Eve? But so much of the human experience is awful. Pain is our teacher, and we're decaying from the moment that we're born. The real miracle is that we've made something wonderful out of this mess. We've had to, because boredom is the literal worst. I don't care, cut off my pinky toe. Just don't make me sit alone with my thoughts. These are my thoughts. We invented games pretty fast, and storytelling and art, because, as I said earlier, we all have a song in our heart. We don't have a Wall Street portfolio in our heart. Though if we had one in the bank, maybe we could find more songs in our heart. Glasses were also invented pretty early on, because if you can't see, it's hard to do anything else, especially if you hadn't invented sidewalks yet. Maybe your song is an invention. We're like 2 generations out from the gentleman inventor, like that guy who moves his whole family out to California so he doesn't have to pay heat for the winter. And he just spends his whole day tinkering. The 7 kids, because he's always got a shitload of kids. They either go to school or they don't. He's kind of unschooling them, decades before that was a thing. It's just good old 70s style parental neglect. But he's really good with his hands. Today's fantasy is to cross the Pacific on a cargo ship. That's right, like in Royal Tenenbaums, when Richie is too depressed to be on dry land. Never mind that it's some people's jobs. Do you like crewing a cargo ship? Our cargo ship crewing viewers? Seems nice. Well, it seems isolated, which seems nice. Months at sea. You can work on your stuff without getting messages from your students at all hours. Teacher, I forgot my homework. Teacher, I forgot my lunch. Teacher, I forgot my name. And these are the adults. On a ship, you don't have to go anywhere. The ship's doing that for you. You eat a lot of salt cod, I imagine. I don't like salt cod, but I do like rugged survivalism. Well, I like the idea of rugged survivalism. I like a warm, comfy bed and hot takeout. When someone else cooks, that's exactly what I wanted. On a boat, you can get lost in a horizon and let your imagination wander. Enjoy the majesty of the earth, which is 3/4 water, and you're always on land, you fraud. You call yourself an earthling, but you know nothing of other habitats.
I don't think Western toilet is AI, but is this the right place for me to say I might be?
Poser. Rain and damp is depressing, but sometimes that's what we need. A real sea adventure going from point A to point B, without worrying the person in front of you is going to recline into your knees. Suck it, air travel. They're the real villains. Turn a miracle in the sky into a miserable consumer experience, where they explicitly reinforce the class system in a literal way. Who does Delta think they are? On boats, you can do boat stuff, like wearing stripes and blowing a whistle. I've got a good hat for boating, but you'll never see it unless you meet me on a boat. Am I losing my mind? Yes. That's why we need to get to the ship, so we can find it again. Seasickness is a great test of our fortitude, or a great way to lose weight. If you lack fortitude, win-win. Strong or skinny. Those are the choices in life. Is everything all right? I'm fine. Everything's fine. The boat is leaving in April. What time? It depends on the winds and the currents. Isn't that charming? If a frog falls out of a tree, you better run. This is the sign you've been waiting on, and it means nothing good. A go bag can only do so much going. It's in you. The magic is in you all along, so you better call on it now, but not too late. It's got work in the morning. Calling before 9 is best, like a civilized person. There are benefits to being uncivilized, however. Sometimes it really is the quickest way to get things done. Fuck that salad fork. I'm eating with my hands. And what's the downside? civilized people think dark thoughts about you? That they're too civilized to say out loud? Oh no, I'm shaking in my muddy boots. At its best, etiquette is a code that makes everyone feel welcome and comfortable. At its worst, it's a tool to keep people in line. You can't keep me in line. I'm too full of dark thoughts. Dark thoughts, like dark matter, are a recently discovered physical property, but they have a profound effect on the real world. Mostly in drawing rooms and conservatories. They manifest in a gravitational pull that is slight, but there. You can channel this to your advantage if you know about it. For example, if there's an unsuitable betrothal that you wish to see broken, you can circulate counterclockwise, deploying dark thoughts at the 3 o'clock and 10 o'clock positions. No more than this, or you can disrupt a happy marriage as well. And then who will inherit the estate? And then chaos will reign. Like I said, powerful stuff.
I'm not sure what this has to do with anything.
You may be thinking dark thoughts right now. It's an instinctual process in humans. It's natural, and there's nothing wrong with you. But you can't let it build up. In the past, we thought bloodletting was a cure. But it's not. Keep your blood inside. That's what I'm always saying. But yelling in a grassy field, weeping atop a tall building, whispering into a freshly laid carpet, these are all good ways to harmlessly dissipate dark thoughts. Their counterpoint light thoughts are equally as powerful. But there's already so much written in the literature about it. I don't want to waste your precious time with redundancies. Don't think twice. It's all right. Don't. I mean it, whether light or dark. Twice thinking can send one on a spiral that is hard to recover from. There's a lot of power in numbers. That's what your math teacher was always saying. You should have listened to her. Is it only aptitude that makes people good at things? I wouldn't know. I tried my best to be good at nothing. It's a thorny struggle, but most of the things that are worth it are. If you can master nothing, then maybe you can get a glimpse of the other side. The other side implies that there's only two. Binary is helpful for simplifying your problems down to their basic variables, but you don't want to simplify out some of the necessary complexity.
I don't want to keep beating a dead horse, but sometimes you have to. It might come back to life. I don't know.
Did you know Choco Leibniz cookies was named after the Leibniz? You know calculus on the continent Leibniz? I guess it's only fair if we have Fig Newtons. What's with all these mathematicians getting cookies named after them? Is there something especially mathematical about cookies? But then again, McDonald's celebrated Pi Day this year. Did you notice? It feels both fun and betraying if Pi Day gets a more mainstream audience. Numbers are for the nerds. But would it be better if we were all nerds? Evidently not. It's too bad people aren't pushing a liberal arts education as a cure to a small mind, and hence a gateway to riches. Plenty of people can get rich without being particularly thoughtful about it. In fact, it might be a liability. If you're trying to source ethical t-shirts, because fast fashion is killing the planet and choking our water supplies with microplastics, which doesn't sound great, well, someone without those ethical concerns has already sold out their whole run while you've been dithering. They're still full of microplastics. No one's getting away from all that.
You are worried about microplastics in the drink water? That's cute. No. You are going to hear about this in a few months. But the real threat is nanoplastics, and they are not where you think.
I'd like a getaway. Somewhere indoors, with a comfortable sofa. Good sofas are underrated these days. Or maybe they're rated exactly right. Have you seen the price of a quality couch? That's why people keep buying shitty ones. Buy it for life is a good goal, but it takes a lot of capital up front, and the young tend to be pretty broke. You can be broke when you're old, too. Some people will never be rich. Can you believe it? Work hard, get ahead, but ahead of what? The grave. Money can't buy me longevity. Or no, it probably can. Buys everything else around here. And it's a simple math equation if I could only figure it out. Carry the 1, divide by 4. The thing with creating a meta-narrative that breaks all the rules is that you can never trust the endings. This is not the ending, but it might be. One day. Stories traditionally go in a certain order, and that's comforting. Formulas work because we kind of need to half expect where we're going. Also, not everyone's good at telling stories. The punchline needs to surprise, but only the right amount. Otherwise, it feels like chaos, and chaos is scary. But the flip side of fear is excitement.
It's like this. I can write a note on my phone, and then I can just wang it over to my computer. You know, I can do that. The future is amazing.
If you break the rules, if it's revealed that none of the facts are what I thought they were, well, then anything's possible. But if anything's possible, I spend the rest of the story waiting for the other shoe to drop. And I can't let go of the suspicion that the author is wearing more than the traditional amount of shoes. Because what if the author has more than the traditional amount of feet? That's where this is all going, isn't it? There's delight in a twist, but true satisfaction in having guessed the twist. That's why babies repeatedly throw Cheerios on the ground. They're excited to confirm the existence of gravity. They're also on guard against any inconsistencies in the fabric of space-time. In fact, they're our best defense. That's why they cry so much. It's the pressure. It gets to them to be constantly monitoring. That's also why their contract of service is only a few years. Then they grow up into childhood and leave it all behind. That's right, you're just a retired baby. Twist. Ooh, the next twist? Well, I wouldn't give that away, even if I knew. But you've been around long enough to know that things aren't exactly as they seem, right? This can't be. Is this all there is? Excuse me. It gets to me sometimes too. Babies aren't the only one with pressure. They are the only ones with impossible knees, though. I'm still not sure what the purpose of that is, but that's not really my area. Although I keep saying it seems related. They keep telling me to keep my eyes on my own paper. And they're the ones that sign the paychecks, so to speak. I don't think I'm allowed to say more. I say what I want. Don't you worry about that. There's no silencing this intellect. The world needs to know, and they will. I forgot what I was gonna say. But get some Cheerios to a baby. They need them, and you'll be part of the cause again. For a little while, anyway. Won't it feel good to be useful? Won't it?
I need to get this off my chest. This Western toilet guy, I don't think he's everything he says he is. I really haven't heard anybody speak on this, but my wise man, my father, once told me, if no one else is speaking the truth, it's up to you. He's a wise man, my dad. Yeah, this is Western toilet exposed. Okay, we'll put like a big graphic right here, yeah, and yeah, okay, so let me take you through. I got 4 points. You don't have to agree with everything, just keep your mind open, okay? We're going with the big one, right off the bat. Because what we learned in my journalism class is you gotta hook the viewer's attention right away. I've been watching Western Toilet since the very beginning, like all the way back in 2024. I'm starting to think he's not all the things that he says he is. And then we'll end that video montage. Yeah. Did you hear that? That repetition? I mean, some of it may be possible. Some people don't have friends. Those people aren't all right. You should check on them right now. First, I thought I was in on the joke. An old man looks like an old young Robert De Niro. But then I started to think, that doesn't make any sense. What is he trying to achieve? Is he making fun of me? Should he be canceled? Is canceling real? But then that made me think. Give me the next one. This is not a realistic workload. It also sets a terrible example for the youth. We should be throwing off the mantle of always on capitalism. Not liking and subscribing. I mean, I'm smart enough to know the difference. I think you are too. But think about your cousins and your younger siblings. I mean, at least when you and I were growing up, we had media literacy and videos were tangibly about something. The Western Toilet isn't. And it's in a way that makes me really uncomfortable. I think that he's being sarcastic sometimes. Like, what even is that? That, we're gonna get to in our second half. So just go with me on this, okay? I'm gonna walk you through my whole process. I mean, think about it. If the opposite of real is artificial, and if you take away the impossible, and whatever remains, no matter how improbable, it must be the truth. My social studies teacher told me that. Okay, so the case for AI, it's in the answers. There aren't any. Did you notice? All right, and then we'll roll that second one, right? Yeah, here, yeah. Does he bash on AI sometimes? I mean, yeah, but that's the point. AI is sophisticated enough to throw you off its scent. It can lie to you, and it does. It's just, something just didn't sit right about this theory. I had to sit down and I had a long think, and I realized, I know this is a big leap, but just go with me on this, okay? I promise I'll make it all make sense. I mean, what would an AI get out of publishing a daily samizdat of absolute nonsense? Nothing. But what would an interdimensional spy get out of testing our psychological abilities and cognitive reasoning. Everything. Listen, I'm not saying it's nefarious, although I'm not saying it's nefarious. I don't even have the capacity to know, right? And that's the exact type of brain breaker Western Toilet himself would ask you. And I don't think I like having my brain broken, especially in the name of research. And listen, I'm sorry if this is too long. If it should be posted here, mods, just let me know. I'll take it down, okay? I'm not asking you to do anything. Like, fine, listen. If watching Western Toilet is what you like to do, that's your prerogative, fine. I won't stop you. I just had to say my piece, okay? I don't really have any social media or anything you need to follow, so I guess we'll just end it here. So, this has been Squatty Potty reporting live from the ground here in Chongqing. I wasn't gonna say my name. Hey, did that look okay? That thing on my teeth, it started to turn green, and I don't know, I just don't have that on camera. There's this girl that watches the channel. I don't even think she knows I exist, but I don't know, I think she's in my class. Like, she'll see it, right? You think she'll see it? I hope she does. I hope she does. I'm lonely.
I'm Western Toilet. Talking to me?